What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. If this is the first time we're meeting, my name is Oliver and I am a master student at Aalto University here in Finland. And on this channel we talk about education and early career development, specifically here in Finland. So if you are new here, do consider subscribing. So during these weekly live Q&A live streams, I answer your most burning questions about studying, living and working in Finland. And how these live streams work is that I have a link to a Google form linked in the description box below. And if you want me to answer your question live, please post your question into the Google form, because then I will have those questions in front of me here on the computer and I will be able to answer your questions live in a first come, first serve basis. So again, during these live streams, I basically answer any of your questions about living, working, or studying in Finland. And let's actually start by linking this stream to our Discord server. So if you for some reason are not yet a member of our Discord server, I highly recommend that you consider joining. We have a link to the Discord server in the description box below. The idea of the server is to build a community of people interested in studying and working in Finland. And in the server, I, for example, answer your most frequently asked questions. We have a bit more personal dialogue, and I post updates about these upcoming videos and live streams on this channel. Jan Havi Osa, what's up? Welcome back to the stream. Awesome to have you here as well. Let me know in the chat, first of all, is the audio okay? Is the audio coming out fine? And after that, I would love to know, where are you actually watching from? What is the local time in your country / your city? And what are you drinking this morning, day, or evening? I'm going with water because it's 6:30 p.m. and I've had a lot of coffee today, so I think that water is going to be the best solution for me. Cool. So again, once again, if you have any questions, there is a link to a Google form in the description box below. Please post your questions in the form, and I will then start working on them, answering them in a first serve basis. But I will actually start with a couple of questions that were left from last week that we didn't have the time to actually answer. So let's jump right into that. First, a bit of water. People are apparently joining. Juan, what is up? Awesome to have you here as well. Navnet Kaur, awesome to have you here as well. Scarlett, awesome to have you. T-Bag, what is up? Welcome back to the stream. Scarlett drinking coffee, awesome. Bangladesh, it's 10:28 p.m. Oh, that's actually pretty late. Awesome to have you here even at this late hour. And in Bolivia, it's around 12:30 p.m. Oh, that's cool. All right. In Colombia, 11:30 a.m. Cool. Water as well, missing my coffee. Manthan Pad, awesome to have you here as well. Guys, if you want to ask me any questions, please post them in the form. I will jump into the form right now, and I will start going through the questions right away. There's not that many questions in the queue currently, so just start posting your questions there, and I will get to your question in just a moment. Anyways, the first question that was left from last week came from Offense Lesego, again, who is from Botswana, and who said that he is going to be applying to study in Finland in this actually currently ongoing application period. By the way, actually, guys, if you are applying to study in a master's program in a Finnish university, the application period is open right now. So if you have any questions specifically about applying to study in Finland, let me know, because this is the perfect time to answer those questions. Anyways, Offense is interested in environmental sciences, currently studying in the University of Botswana, and is applying to Aalto University. Awesome. And the question is, this is actually a really good question, and it applies to this very moment. So please explain more about getting a scholarship for a master's program at Aalto University, and specifically this actually applies to any master's degree program in Finland. Do I first get admitted and then apply for a scholarship afterwards? Great question. The answer here is no. You have to be very careful with this. So if for some reason you don't know yet, if you are a non-European Union or non-European Economic Area citizen, you have to pay tuition in Finland for English-taught bachelor's and master's degree programs. However, every single Finnish university has a scholarship program specifically for those students who have to pay tuition. But what is really important to know here is that in Finland you apply for those scholarships with the same application form that you use to apply for the university itself. There are some universities that have different type of scholarships that you apply to afterwards, or you apply to them after the first year. So you have to check this from the university itself or the university website. However, for example, at Aalto University, you apply for the Aalto University scholarship program with the same application form that you use to actually apply to Aalto. And you cannot apply to that scholarship after you have admitted. So you have to make sure that you apply to the scholarship at the same time. How do you do this? Is most often the application form itself that you fill out on the web will have some kind of a tick box or checkbox or drop-down menu or something like this that will ask you whether or not you want to apply for the scholarship program, and then you will have to answer yes or check the box or whatever. And again, remember that there are some universities that have a bit different scholarship programs, and so they're exceptions to the rule. But most universities have the do you want to apply for a scholarship right in that application form. So just keep that in mind. Awesome to have more people here. Blaze, what is up? Awesome to have you here back as well. Terve to you as well. It's currently 6:30 p.m. in Kigali, Rwanda. That's cool. And you're having tea. That is awesome. Tea is always good. All right, guys, let's continue. I will get back to the chat in a moment. But once again, to reiterate, if you have any questions that you would like me to answer live, please post the questions into the Google form that is in the description box below, all the way down the description box below. The reason is that the chat gets pretty busy at times during these live streams, and if you post your question into the live chat, it is highly likely that I will simply miss your question because there's so much traffic there. And if you post your question into the Google form through the link that is in the description box below, I will have all the questions in front of me on the computer, and I will go through them in a first come, first serve basis. All right, the next question comes from Petteri, who is actually a Finnish person, currently in high school. Awesome to have some fellow Finns on in the stream as well. And Petteri is interested in studying data sciences. And the question is, does Boston Consulting Group offer internships for data science graduates from Aalto? Interesting question. So for you that don't know what Boston Consulting Group is, BCG is basically a really popular employer, especially for business students. For example, they do a lot of consulting, for example, different type of consulting. And my answer to Petteri is that I don't know whether or not BCG has specifically internships for data science students. Or do they target a specific internship for data science students? This goes to all different internships. However, if you study data sciences, you absolutely could apply to different business type internships at BCG or other consultancy or big four consultancy companies. BCG isn't one of them. Because simply understanding data sciences will give you a mathematical background that is going to be, and an analytical background that is going to be very interesting for those companies. So not sure if they have specifically these type of internships, but they will definitely have something that is suitable for you. Dennis, what is up? You're not late at all. We just started 6 minutes ago, so welcome to the stream. Awesome to have you here. Dennis, as always, post your questions in the description box below, especially if you have any questions about applying to the programs, especially currently considering that the application forms for master's programs are open. So if you have any questions about those topics, they are highly relevant, so let me know. The next question comes from Janhavi Osa, who comes from India, and she has not yet decided whether or not she wants to study in Finland. Then I will try to turn your head and make you actually apply to study in Finland, because it's awesome. Janhavi is interested in civil engineering. Is studying currently civil engineering, and is interested in sustainable infrastructure and sustainable construction. Very interesting fields and very highly relevant fields as well. Especially in Finland, sustainable construction, trying to find different type of sustainable construction materials, how to recycle construction materials, how to make the construction process, the work, and the actual construction site more sustainable. Very highly relevant, extremely relevant, and they're not sure how many jobs there are currently, but that's a field that is going to grow in the future, absolutely certainly. So super cool. And the question is, does Finland have any kind of scope or degree for civil engineers and sustainable construction? What is the return of investment if I invest time and money on studying masters in Finland? Really interesting question. All right, so first of all, I'm not 100% sure whether or not Finnish universities have a degree program for specifically sustainable construction. However, there are multiple different master's programs in civil engineering throughout different universities in Finland. For example, I think that Aalto University has a master's in civil engineering. Let's see. Excuse me. Right. So for example, if all right, let's jump actually into the screen share. So for example, Aalto University has a master's program in building technology, so it's named a bit differently, but this will give you basically the skill sets that you need to have in order to become a civil engineer. And actually here they mention an inbuilt sustainable approach to their profession. Graduates see the well-being of environment, society, and people as a starting point for successful civil and structural engineering. So yeah, actually that answered your question. Yes, we do have scopes for our degree programs for for civil engineers, specifically in sustainable construction. So let me just link this to the chat. Just a moment. And actually, the application for Aalto University Master's Program is currently open, so I would really recommend that you look at the program. The application is open this month and until the 4th of January 2021. So you should definitely consider applying there. Again, if you're not familiar with Aalto University before, Janhavi specifically, Aalto University is basically the #1 university in Finland in the field of engineering and technology. So if you want to get a very good start for a successful career in Finland in sustainable construction, Aalto University is the place to go. Disclaimer, I also study at Aalto University and they are a sponsor on this channel. They're not sponsoring these streams, so hashtag not sponsored. However, just as a disclaimer, also, again, they're internationally ranked the highest in engineering out of all Finnish universities. And then the second question was, what is the return on investment if I invest time and money on studying masters in Finland? That depends on you. Depends on what you want to do. If you want to become a construction engineer, then you need to have a master's in Finland. That's basically something that you need to have. Especially if you want to get into those managerial positions, then you need to have a master's degree in the field. So job experience is not enough. You will hit a wall at some point. On the other hand, doing a master's degree in Finland is highly lucrative anyways, because Finnish universities are extremely highly respected around the world, because institutions and employers around the world know how good high quality Finnish university education is. And actually the World Economic Forum actually ranks the skill sets of Finnish university graduates third highest in the entire world. So don't look at the university rankings themselves blindly, because the university rankings themselves don't tell you that much, because a lot of them are based on the quality and the quantity of research papers that are published from those universities. And of course, older schools like Harvard or Oxford and these kind of places, Ivy League schools, they will have more published, recognized research, but that doesn't in itself tell anything about the level of education that you actually get in the school. And in Finland, universities are very highly ranked in terms of the education, especially. So, and then there was a bit of a positive feedback. You're doing a great job. Thank you very much. And the Google form is the best and feasible way to get everyone's answers. That I do agree. I tried to do this through the live chat a couple of times, and it didn't really work because it's just so busy. So I think this is really great. Let's jump into the chat for just a second. Kamesh, awesome to have you here as well. Welcome to the stream. AS896, awesome to have you here as well. And sorry for butchering your name. Kansarama Harshi, welcome. Moro to you as well. Howdy, awesome to have you here as well. Guys, just to reiterate, meme review. If you want me to answer your questions live, please post your question into the Google form that is linked in the description box below. Go all the way down the description box. You will have these SOS yellow signs, and between them you will have a link to a Google form. It doesn't require any kind of a login or you leaving your email. It's completely free. The reason why I use the Google form instead of answering questions from the chat is simply because the chat gets pretty busy at times, and it's impossible for me to follow along and answer every single one of the questions there. So if you want to make sure that I will answer your question, then please post it in the Google form. Jan Havi, awesome to thank you so much for the positive feedback. You're welcome. Awesome to hear that you're hopefully getting some value out of the stream. Actually, if you are, and if you want to support the channel, please remember to push the like button. And if you're not subscribed for some reason, do consider subscribing, and put on all notifications, especially if you're applying this application period, because I have a lot of important information coming up during the next weeks about the application process. And the only way to make sure that you will see the videos when I publish them is by actually having all notifications on, because YouTube doesn't notify every single subscriber individually otherwise. Arthur, what is up? Welcome back to the stream. Awesome to have all the regulars on the stream. Once again, as always, post your questions into the Google form. Next up, Adil Yassar, my mouth is a bit dry, who comes from Pakistan and is currently studying in his high school degree. Is interested in aerospace engineering, and Adil is a regular on the streams. Awesome to have you here again. And the question/comment is, hey Oliver, how are you? I'm actually doing really well. I've gotten a lot of work done this week, so I thank you very much. Hope you're doing well as well. You're doing great. You have inspired me for to apply to Aalto University, and I have now a keen desire to study in Finland. But the thing is, I am still in high school. After that, I have to take my SATs and then the IELTS language proficiency tests. So the point is that there is no consultants who deals in Finland. So this is a major problem for me because of immigration problems, for example, at the airport and other stuff. So these things are bothering me a lot. I will be very grateful if you inform me about the immigration problem that international students have to deal with. That's actually a very good topic to touch upon a bit. So a lot of people, for example, when they want to come and work in Finland, people who already have like bachelor's degrees or master's degrees, or even some people who have PhDs, they actually run into problems because the working visa, the working residence permit, or the visa process in Finland it's actually quite cumbersome. So I actually had this really interesting interview that I posted today, where I interviewed Steven ter Horst, who is a Dutch entrepreneur, a very successful entrepreneur. He used to be the global head of marketing for Heineken, for example. And he's currently working in Finland at a startup as a head of recruitment and staffing. And he said that we have a massive problem in Finland because getting a working visa for a highly educated person who already has a job offer from a Finnish company can take up to a year, which is completely insane. That's absolutely nuts, because that means that because the visa process takes such a long time that people don't want to come to Finland to work. And they accept job offers from the States or Germany or France or Britain. And however, the cool thing is that this is not a problem when you are a student, because when you are admitted to study in Finland at a Finnish institution of higher learning, so university or University of Applied Sciences, you have to apply for a residence permit for students, so basically a student visa. And the really cool thing is that unless you have a criminal record or unless there's something really badly wrong with your application, and or if you don't have the financial funds to actually live in Finland without using the government, there is not that many ways that the government can actually block your visa. And you actually get them really quickly, because basically what it requires is that you have been admitted to study in Finland. So in this sense, there's actually no problems at coming to Finland or migrating to Finland as a student, as long as you have been admitted to study in Finland at a university or University of Applied Sciences. And so this is one of the reasons why when people, for example, who have bachelor's degree in engineering or whatever, they tell me that they want to come to work in Finland, and they ask me about the immigration process. I actually tell them that this is not a guarantee, and of course I'm not an expert in the field, but what I've understood from discussions that I've had is that it might actually be easier for you to migrate to Finland if you get a place of study. So if you apply to, for example, to do a master's in Finland, and afterwards, it's really easy to get a residence permit to work. While again, the actual residence permit application for work here, if you just come to work here, it can take quite a while. So in this sense, I don't actually see that there is a problem, or at least not a big problem, in terms of as you put it, problems with immigration for international students, because you guys are welcome here as long as you have been admitted to study in Finland. We'd love you to come to Finland, and this is one of the reasons why I actually have this channel, to inform you that we actually want you guys to come to study in Finland, and afterwards, of course, work here as well. But yeah, thanks for the positive feedback. I hope that this kind of gave you a bit of context to the matter, and I wouldn't be worried at all. Just, especially since you are still in high school, make sure, and you're interested in aerospace sciences or aerospace engineering, which is a massively cool field, and it's a growing field in Finland as well. Make sure to focus on your high school finals and your degrees as much as you can. Especially now that there's the COVID situation, you have to stay inside anyways. Study as hard as you can to get as good grades as possible. And the second that you get rid of your high school finals and you actually graduate as a high school graduate, start working on your SATs and IELTS. Also start learning English already if you're not that proficient in it. Start watching English speaking TV shows, Netflix without any subtitles. Just do everything you can to learn English and to study for the SATs. Because you have to remember that admission into Finnish universities is done in a competitive basis, meaning that fields that are competitive are very, very difficult to get in. This is why you really have to sacrifice to get into Finland, because that is going to be worth it after you actually get here. So, yeah. Shannon, awesome to have you in the stream as well. Arthur, I thought you were actually here already. Did you drop off for a second? Homicidal Chimpanzee, what is up? Awesome to have you here as well. Who else do we have here? Sainthan, Arunan, what is up? Awesome to have you here as well. Hope you are doing awesome. Guys, once again, just to reiterate, because people have been joining into the stream, if you have any questions, as normal, post your questions into the Google form that is linked in the description box below, and I will go through the questions in a first-come, first-served basis. Also, it would be awesome to get this stream into 40 likes. I think the last stream we got into 45 before we ended the stream. So if you could just slightly press the like button so that we can actually get it up. We're currently in 19 likes, so it would be awesome to get it to 15 within the next few minutes. And of course, if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, make sure to subscribe. Roy, awesome to have you here as well. Welcome to the stream. Is this actually the first time you're in live? Really, really cool to meet you here personally as well, even though I'm looking at the lens. Roy is currently living in Canada, has Finnish ancestry, and has a lot of really, really cool stories. Actually, go and check out Roy's channel as well. He has some really cool kind of personal content there as well that he's creating for future reference. Anyways, back to the form. Juan is asking, Juan from Colombia is asking, how strong is the emphasis on behavioral economics in your master's? That is a good question. I actually don't have any behavioral economics in my master's, but if you do a degree in economics, let's actually see. We could check if there's any courses there. So if you're interested in, for example, to apply to Aalto University, you can go to this into.aalto.fi website, and you can actually look at the different curriculum and the courses that are available for all the different programs. PB97, awesome to have you here as well. Welcome. Hope you're getting value out of the stream. And so if you come to the into.aalto.fi website and you actually check out the different programs, you can actually see here in the curriculum, you can actually see the different programs. And let's see, behavior. Here we actually go. So in the master's, no, that's actually in Hanken. That's a different school. No. There you go. Nope. Well, it seems that you can actually do one course in behavioral and experimental economics at Aalto if you do a master's there. So it doesn't seem that there's a huge emphasis on there. But then again, we have macroeconomics, microeconomics, money and monetary policy, economic valuation methods, advanced natural resources economics. There's all of this has something to do with behavioral sciences and psychology as well, anyways. So I've never done any of those courses myself, but I have a bunch of friends who have actually done a master's in economics. But if your question referred to my master's, I actually did my master's, or I'm still finishing up my master's in entrepreneurship and innovation management. That doesn't tell you anything. So I basically had a lot of management consultancy or management studies. Then I had sustainable business practices, and then some marketing courses, for example. So it was a bit of a mix-up. It was this kind of a experimental master's program that is actually nowadays no longer available for new students, but it was really cool. Next question comes from Arjun, who is a regular on the channel. Awesome to have you here every single week. And Arjun is applying to Aalto University to study automation and electrical engineering, which again is really awesome. And the question is, hi Oliver, hope you're doing great. I am actually doing really well. Thank you very much. Christmas is coming. I love Christmas. Awesome. Holidays are coming as well. I'm really looking forward to it. Hope you're doing well as well. I just saw your recent video with Steven Terhorst, and it was absolutely outstanding, a very much informative and insightful discussion about the recruitment process in Finland. Awesome. If you guys actually haven't seen the video yet, I really, really recommend that you check out the interview that I just released with Steven der Horst, again, who is a extremely experienced entrepreneur from a Dutch person. And he's currently working in Finland in HR and in recruiting. And we had a really cool an hour-long interview where he discussed all of his experiences about Finland from the perspective of a job seeker / a expat, as well as from the perspective of a recruiter. So super interesting. For example, Roy, actually for you, I think this might be super interesting considering your background. So check this out. I think that you actually might find this really, really interesting, especially considering your background. So check out the interview with Steven. It's in the live chat right now. And then Arjun is saying, thank you very much for sharing such great knowledge with the world. You're welcome. Oh, so there was no question. Awesome. All right. You are most welcome. Oh, actually, there was a question from Arjun in the next form. So the question is, I have applied to Aalto through studyinfo.fi on December 1st. Awesome. Fist bump. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that you will actually get admitted. It would be epic. Awesome. I'm having a great day. And I find it I find the studyinfo.fi a very easy and user-friendly website. That's a first. People don't usually say that about it. Cool. My question to you is, does Aalto University evaluate the admissions based on grades? Because I got to know that if I have lesser grade in my bachelor's, the possibility of getting admission is it's less or lower. However, I have gained all the electrical engineering skills during my work experience, which is currently 5 years in total. So does Aalto consider my work and education for admission? Yeah, this is a really good question, and unfortunately, I cannot say anything here for certain because I have no personal experience in grading or processing the admission application. So please take everything that I say here with a grain of salt. What I do know is that especially for masters, the way that the different admission criteria are weighted might not be as straightforward as we think, because some people think that it's just about the grades. But on the other hand, I think that you might have needed to submit your CV as well and a motivation letter. And Aalto definitely takes into account your work experience. If you think about it if you try to put yourself into the shoes of the actual person who is processing the applications, the only thing that they want to do is that they want to choose the best applicants who are going to improve Aalto University as a whole, both from the academics perspective, from rankings perspective, as well as producing as high quality experts for the Finnish job market as possible, and having good Aalto community members as well. This would mean that even if you don't have necessarily that good grades in school from your bachelor's, but you have a lot of work experience, you both have a slight disadvantage as well as an advantage. So if you think about like two different applicants, the same goes to job applications as well. And again, take this with a grain of salt because I have no personal experience, so disclaimer. However, if you take two different applicants who are completely identical in every single other way, but this person has a year of work experience, who are you going to choose? Surely, of course, in job applications, when you're in an interview, your personality and your fit to the company culture is going to matter as well. However, since you are not interviewed based on your like cultural fit into universities, that doesn't really matter. So 1 year of work experience is going to take you a bit further, and then you're going to be selected. Of course, there's a billion different things that are going to be taken into account: your motivation letter, how good it is, what your aspirations are, your job experience, your grades, your recommendation letters. So it's very hard to say what the weighing is, because that's not public information. However, I would say that having 5 years of experience in electrical engineering is a big thing. That's a really cool thing. And I think that that is going to be very positive for you in terms of the application. Dennis, I don't have a Patreon account. Thanks for asking. I haven't set up one because the taxation of the Patreon accounts it's a bit difficult for in Finland. Don't want to go into the details, but if you want to support the channel, you can actually consider becoming a channel member, which would be awesome if that is something that you would like to think about. So let me just show you really quickly my awesome face. Inception. So if you want to directly support what I'm doing here on the channel, you can consider becoming a channel member by clicking this join button under the video, for example, in this live stream, or under any video on my channel. So if you click the join button, you will see all the different four different membership levels that are possible on the channel. And with all of these different levels, you will get different perks that are listed here. Of course, if you would consider becoming a channel member, I would simply just tell you thank you very much. It means everything to me, because you guys are the only reason why I'm able to actually work as a YouTuber full time, and it's a dream come true, really, and I appreciate you so much. Talking about this, Roy giving a $5 Canadian super chat. Thank you so much, Roy. Kahviraha, meaning money for my coffee fund. Thank you very much. That goes directly into my coffee fund piggy bank. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. I've had way too much coffee today, which apparently is, you can maybe see in my face. I'm all over the place. Again, so highly appreciated. Thanks so much. And again, once again, I'm really waiting to see what is going to. Roy has told me that there's something on the horizon coming up, and I'm really eagerly waiting that there's something. If you can just give us any kind of indication what is happening in terms of you, that would be awesome. I promise I will not tell anyone. Anyways, getting back to the questions, the next one comes from Abdullah from Egypt. Awesome to have you here as well. And Abdullah is applying to study in Finland the next application period to Aalto University to study construction management. Nice. And the question is, the PhD programs, are they paid? Yes, they are. So, yes. So in Finland, PhD programs are paid. However, the way that they are paid or financed depends a bit on the university itself. So, for example, with Aalto University, Aalto is one of the best research universities in Finland, Helsinki, the University of Helsinki being a bit more highly ranked. However, what is really cool is that with Aalto University, the financing opportunities for PhDs is pretty good. So they have usually an opportunity. They usually are able to finance your research to a certain extent. I think, for example, if you do a PhD in business, I think your research is financed for the first 2 years, maybe the first year. I don't remember exactly. I checked this a couple of years ago, and but after that, you have to make sure that you have to take care of the financing of your research yourself, and there's a bunch of different ways that you can do this. First of all, of course, there's a bunch of different grants and scholarships that you can apply for. But in addition, you can also apply for financing from the private sector, I think, depending on the research. And for example, my brother, my older brother, is doing his PhD in biology, and he's actually done really well with his grant applications. And we actually have an idea. You actually had feedback here that you would like to get some content on PhD applications. We are actually planning on making a video series next year, so 2021, about doing a PhD in Finland. And for example, one of the topics that we want to cover is financing your PhD. And Daniel is, my brother is really good at this. So I will most likely do like a video interview series where he can tell about this in his own words. But yeah, so PhD positions in Finland are paid, at least partially. Roy saying that haha, you have to wait and see. Darn, that it would have been awesome to have exclusive rights to see what is happening on the channel. That would be we would think about it. You can make this channel into the new TMZ. That would be actually not too cool. Don't tell me about it. I don't want to become a celebrity website. Anyhow, the next question comes from Petteri. Right, cool. Petteri, actually, this is the same question as before. Petteri, I actually answered your question right in the beginning of this live stream. So go all the way back to the start, and it was the first or the second question that I already that I answered in the stream. So if you came a bit late, like 10 minutes into the live stream, you missed it. But go all the way to the start. I actually answered your question already. So go ahead and check it out from the start of the stream. Arjuna, what is up? Awesome to have you here as well. What's up? Oliver TMZ. Yeah, exactly. Guys, we're actually currently at 17 likes. It would be awesome to hit 25. And the channel for the goal for today's stream is to hit at least 40 in total. So if you are getting some value out of the stream, please hit the like button. That is going to tell the YouTube algorithm gods that this stream is actually giving you some value, and it's going to bump it up a bit in the algorithm. Anyways, the next question comes from Chimo, who comes from France and is applying to study in Finland in the next application period to Joensuu AMK or Joensuu University of Applied Sciences or Tampere University of Applied Sciences or others. And the field is international business. And the question is, I would like to study one of these at one of these universities. Cool. But I fear I won't be admitted to any of them. What would you suggest to someone who's been rejected by the university he chose? Should I come to Finland and work, for example? What would be your plan B? That's a good question. That's of course a very personal question and also an interesting question. Depends on your background. So of course, it might be a bit difficult if you don't know the reasons why you've been rejected. So, for example, if your grades weren't enough, or if your motivation letter was not enough, or if your entrance exam points were not enough. So, if you're able to pinpoint to the exact thing that actually got you rejected, of course, then I would advise you to really work on that thing and study for that specific thing. For example, if your motivation letter was the thing that got you rejected, there's ways to study how to write really great motivation letters. However, if you have no clue to what got you rejected, that's of course a bit of a difficult one. Again, the problem is, of course, since you're from France, from the European Union, you could come to Finland to work. However, this would depend on my recommendation. Whether or not come to Finland to work would depend on your educational background. So even though you're from the European Union, if you don't have a degree, so if you, for example, just have a high school degree, it is going to be really difficult for you to come here and work, simply because it is going to be hard for you to find a job that is going to pay well enough. So my first choice would always be to reapply and to focus on the application. It doesn't matter if it takes you 5 months, 8 months, a year to study for the application process, then you have to do it. I applied twice to study in Finland, or to study at Aalto University. I got in on the second try. My sister applied 4 times to study at the at law school, and she never got in, and then she applied to another school. My brother, he didn't apply to study in other universities, but he actually applied to get into he applied to a certain role for 4 years, I think, never got in, and then he decided to pivot to biology, and then he got in on his first try. So don't give up. On average, people in Finland don't get into the university of their choice on the first try anyways. So if it's the same for you, then I simply just tell you, don't give up. It is absolutely possible for anyone to get to study in Finland. You have to work hard. If that means that you have to sacrifice the evenings that you would normally use to play with your friends or stream or watch YouTube or Netflix, or after the COVID situation is over, the days that you would go to a coffee shop to spend time with your friends, you have to learn how to sacrifice those times, that free time, in order to get to study in Finland. It is not easy to get in. The story, to give you a bit of motivation and based on my personal story, in Finland, after high school, all the men have to go to do a mandatory military service from 6 months to 1 year, because we still have a conscription service. So after high school, I was never that good in school. I was always average, always like in dead center average. And our high school finals are the biggest thing that impacts our university application. So if you do excellent in your high school finals, you can basically get automatically admitted to almost any school. I did, again, I was exactly average with my high school grades, meaning that they didn't have any positive impact on my university application. So I had to use a separate application system that we have for Finnish people, or Finnish nationals. So after high school, I applied, and I'm using applied very specifically because I spent 2 months, I bought the books for the entrance exam, and I spent 2 months like skimming through them, like, oh, this is really interesting. Okay, that's cool. All right, nice. And I thought that I was doing really well, and I got almost 0 points from the exam, which was like a hammer on my face. Like, okay, for the first time in my life, I actually have to study hard. Like, I've never really been used to actually studying, like actually sitting in the library and studying for 8 hours a day. So I didn't get in. After that, I went to do my military service for a year, and immediately when I got out in January 2012, I bought the new books again, and I studied for 5 months straight for 11 hours on average per day. I don't recommend it. It's completely idiotic. Doesn't do you any good. But I hammered through the 5 months. I didn't see a single friend of mine in 5 months. Again, that's not healthy. But that was what was required from me, and I actually got extremely high points from the entrance exams, and I got into my first choice, which was Aalto University. You have to sacrifice. That's as simple as it is. Cool. The next one comes from Manthan Butt, not Butt, Bhatt, who comes from India and is applying to study in Finland in the next application period at Haaga-Helia, and specifically do a bachelor's degree in business. And the question is, a recent start of... So there's a bunch of questions here. The first one was that with the recent admission application period, do all universities, are you able to apply to any university without IELTS or any kind of exam? No. Every single university and University of Applied Sciences in Finland has specific and separate application requirements. So every single university in Finland has their specific requirements to apply. So you have to check for example, in this case, Haaga-Helia Bachelor's in Business and Administration website, and actually check what are the specific application requirements there, whether or not they want an exam or IELTS or SATs or whatever. So it always depends on the school and the degree program that you're applying to. And second one is, what is the cheapest university for two-year master's? No idea. University degrees in Finland have very different kind of prices. I actually have a video on the channel called scholarships in Finland for international students, I think. And in the description box of that video, I have a free Excel spreadsheet, or a link to the spreadsheet, where I actually have listed all the different universities in Finland and their tuition fees. And you can go and check the tuition fees from there. However, I have no idea what is the cheapest one, and I would say that you should not apply just to the university that has the cheapest tuition, because you always can apply for a scholarship. And that means that when you apply to the school, if you are one of the best applicants, you can get granted a scholarship, meaning that you might not have to pay all or any of your tuition fee. So just applying for the cheapest school is not necessarily the best strategy in my mind. Are gap years acceptable? No idea. I have no experience in processing application processes. I don't see any reason why they would not be acceptable. Did Haga-Helia and Aalto start the application process for the next intake? Haga-Helia, I don't think they started their application process for this intake. Aalto University Aalto University's application process started 2 days ago, so 1st of December, and the applications for master's studies at Aalto University is open until the 4th of January 2021. The next one comes from Blaise from Rwanda, and who's applying in the next application period to study at the Savonia University of Applied Sciences, and to specifically do a bachelor's of engineering in mechanical engineering. Awesome. And there's a couple of questions here, so let's go through these one by one. The first one, how many days per week do universities and UASCs, Universities of Applied Sciences, in Finland teach? That's a good question. Depends completely on your curriculum. So in Finland, you're pretty much free to plan your own curriculum, depending a bit on the degree. Especially on university level, the way that the curriculum and course structures are planned is that basically you can do whatever you want when you want it. Not exactly, but kind of almost. So meaning that we have a lot of so-called academic freedom here. No one is going to watch your back and tell you to do things a certain way, but on the other hand, you're fully responsible of your own studies. The thing about universities of applied sciences, as we spoke actually I think last week, is that they have slightly less freedom. So they don't have as much academic freedom as universities, and the reason is that they have a bit more structurized type of degrees. For example, my girlfriend went to study in Metropolia to do a degree there, bachelor's, but she also studies at Aalto University School of Business to her bachelor's plus master's. So she has been able to compare these two different models. And at Aalto University, she can do whatever she wants. She can take whatever courses basically at any time she wants. Of course, if you're a bachelor student, you normally cannot do master's courses, and some courses might have some prerequisites, like if you do a microeconomics 2, then you have to have first completed your micro 1, normal stuff. But basically, she can take how many courses whenever she wants, and then she can fill up her weekly calendar to the brim. However, what she mentioned to me a couple of times about Metropolia is that they have quite strict curriculum for the program that she's studying in, meaning that she actually cannot simply just assign herself courses. For example, meaning that doing your degree faster than normally is normal is actually quite difficult, because your study coordinator might tell you that, okay, you cannot take this course before you have done that first, or something like this. So my simple answer is that you can fill up your calendar as much as you want, with some exceptions. a very normal type is like you have 4 days of classes, and then you have 1 day for assignments, exam studying. During the weekends, there's no education, there's no classes. Classes usually start from 9:15 onwards. Usually we never have anything before 9, because not even the professors want to come to the university before 8. The days usually end, like normal classes, they usually end like at 4 at latest, but then some courses that have been scheduled for the later evening, they might go from 5 to 7 or so. The next question is it possible to maximize the 25 hours of work allowed for international students, especially for bachelor students? If so, how hard would it be to maintain balance between your studies, campus extracurricular activities, as well as other social events? Great question, and a warning here. During the first year of my studies, I burned out really badly. Not because I was working, but and not even because I was doing like student activities, but because I was simply studying too hard, and I burned out really badly, and I was basically out of action for 6 months without being able to do anything. So my studies were postponed by 6 months because I had such a bad burnout. So I would be extremely careful with your time. 25 hours that you can work at maximum if you're a non-European Union citizen while you're studying. You can do it and study full time, but I would really try to, if I were to even try that, I would really listen to my own body. And the second that you feel that you don't want to get up to get to class, that is the first sign that you're not doing well. And the really crappy thing about burnouts is that they creep on you really really quickly, and they are really nasty because they come really quickly and suddenly, and then you're completely out of action. For example, again, for me, I started noticing that I'm getting tired when I lived almost next doors to the campus. I had like 10 minutes walk to the campus from my apartment, and some classes that started like at 10-11 a.m. I just couldn't get up out of the bed to go to those classes. And that was kind of the first sign that, okay, oops, something is not well. I didn't listen to myself or my body, and it got worse. And in the end, someone close to me told me that, Oliver, if you want to go on early medical pension, then you can keep on doing what you're doing, or you can take 6 months off and try to get yourself better and then continue school. So sure, you can do 25 hours of work, and you can do school, and you can do extracurricular activities, but I would not recommend it. You have to sacrifice somewhere to do it. Especially considering that if you do full-time school, you have to be present at the school most of the time, especially in a University of Applied Sciences at the campus, because they have a lot of mandatory classes. That means that you can only do evening and weekend shifts at work, which means that you don't really have any time to rest during the week. So this is an official warning. You have been warned. Third question, is it a good idea to speed up your university studies? What are the good methods to do this? If you want to do work and do extracurricular stuff at the same time, then absolutely no. There's no point. There's no point for doing this. In Finland, you don't get extra, gummy bears or points for doing your degree a bit faster. Actually, in Finland, if you just do your degree at a normal pace and you do a couple of extracurricular things, some volunteer work, and you have work experience when you graduate, you're going to be golden. There's only a few people I know that who have done their degrees a bit faster. I don't think they have had any real benefit out of it. Instead, they have been extremely tired all the time. Plus, again, in terms of universities of applied sciences, it's a bit difficult to actually finish your degree faster than normal because of the more structured way that the curriculum has been built. So, and are exchange studies abroad expensive compared to your local university studies? Really good question. It depends fully on the university itself. Cannot say anything more here. What my experience was that when I was doing my exchange studies during 2016, the summer of 2016 in Munich, in Germany. The only thing that was more expensive was living costs, so rent, food, alcohol, partying, all this kind of stuff was cheaper than in Finland. But because the rents were that much more expensive, because there's a huge lack of apartments in Munich already, I actually paid like double the price that I was paying in Helsinki. So cool. Yevgenia, what is up? What's up? Welcome to the stream. Awesome to have you here as well. Sorry, I missed when you actually came to the chat. Yevgenia, awesome to hear good feedback as well. Talking about the interview that I did with Steven ter Horst. I really recommend that everyone actually goes and checks it out. And Yevgenia is also saying that burnout is awful. It's, sorry for the language, but burnout is a bitch. It's really a really bad thing. I'm actually going to interview a Finnish entrepreneur, hopefully early next year, who is a quote-unquote burnout survivor and nowadays consults about burnout and the dangers of burnouts. And we had a discussion a couple of years ago. We had lunch, and when I told him that I'm working on different projects that I had a burnout previously, his face, he was so livid with me because he didn't understand why I want to do it again for myself, especially since that he also had personal experience burning out. It's not fun. It's really not fun. Yeah, actually, Roy has a really good point about Finnish work-life balance. That's a really, really good point. In Finland, we really appreciate good work-life balance. Not only does this mean that we have sensible working hours, so you don't have to do 120 hours per week to work. A normal a normal work week in Finland is 37 and a half hours. So basically seven and a half hours per week, per day. Of course, depending on your job, you might be doing longer days if you are like doing consulting or working in the financial industry, especially when you're in junior positions. You will definitely work longer. But in general, we like having sensible working hours. The second thing is that we have really long holidays. So summer holidays in Finland are statutory. So you basically need to have paid off or leave from work, depending on the common agreement in the field that you're working in. It might depend how long the leaves are. But for example, in the field that I used to work, or at the company that I used to work, we had for full-time employees, we had 30 days off paid every single year. So you could do a longer Christmas holiday, you could do a really long summer holiday, and then you could, for example, go for a long weekend or a full week abroad for a holiday with your spouse. Awesome. And you get paid. That's really cool. Actually, the next question comes from Roy, again, who is from Canada and has chosen, I have not yet decided whether or not I want to study in Finland. That's a good one. And Roy's field is engineering. And the question is, how is there... Actually, would you mind elaborating on the question a bit more? So the question is, how are the international levels of trade certification from a degree from Finnish universities between other countries? Roy, if you could please elaborate a bit more what you mean, because I actually don't fully know what you mean with your trade certifications. Do you mean like degree certificates? We might be just using a bit of a different terminology, person to person. Let me know in the chat what you actually mean with the question. I will get back to it the second that you get get a bit more information into the chat. But I will move on for now. Next one comes from Arthur, who is again a regular on the channel. Awesome to have you here as well. And the question is, hey Oliver, how are you doing? I'm doing awesome. Thank you very much. Hope you're doing well as well. I posted this question in your previous video about application types. Is it possible to apply only to one university using the studyinfo.fi service/website? I'm considering applying only to Aalto University in the future to do a data science bachelor. In this case, should I use a separate or joint application, or the application depends on each university? Yeah, good question. So yeah, definitely. You can absolutely apply to just a single university with the application. So there's a lot of very confusing terms here. So we are talking about different application types. Basically in Finland, we have two different types of applications to universities and universities of applied sciences. We have something that is called a joint application, and then we have something that is called a separate application. And I actually posted, Arthur, I would really recommend that what you do is that actually, no, never mind, you've seen the video. But anyone who hasn't seen the video about the joint and separate application and what they mean, I actually have a video about that specific topic that I published last week, and it's on the channel. Just go to the channel and search for joint, and you should actually see the question. The video. And so the differences between joint application and separate applications are not only the way that you use them and to which universities you apply, but they only differ in the times that you use them. So I will actually just pull out the, if you can just bear with me for a moment, I will actually just simply read from the script of my previous video, because I think I formulated it pretty well. Excuse me. So, question, what is a joint application? So, joint application is a system that you can use to apply to up to 6 different degree programs. So, keyword here is up to 6 different programs. So, you can apply to 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. You can choose. So, you can use a joint application to apply to 6 different degree programs. A second key term here is degree program, not university, but degree program. So you can basically use the same joint application to apply to multiple different programs within one university, but you can also apply to programs in different universities. So how this is normally used by Finnish students is that, for example, when I applied to study business with a joint application, I applied to 6 different universities, but I only applied to business programs. This is because Aalto University only has one Finnish taught bachelor's degree program. The University of Vaasa, Turku, Oulu, Joensuu, etc., they all have a single program for Finnish taught business studies. So I used 6. I chose 6 of those schools that I applied to with the same application, joint application form. And you can only apply with using one joint application form. So you can only apply or fill one joint application form. So you cannot just apply with multiple different joint application forms. So you can choose up to 6 different degrees. Anyways, so you can choose 6 different degree programs with one application form. These 6 options may include degrees from one or several different universities or universities of applied sciences. There are three different joint application periods each year, 2 of which offer study programs in English. So this means that there are 3 time periods per year when you can apply to study in Finland using these joint applications. And 2 of them offer study applications for programs in English. One is in the autumn and one is in the spring. The autumn application happens in September, and the spring application happens in January. So the application period that we are currently in, where we have open applications right now in December, this is not done through a joint application. The joint applications open in January. I will get to this December period in just a second. And then the one more difference about the joint applications between spring and autumn is the following. When you apply to English taught programs using the spring joint application, so the joint application that you fill in January, you do not have to place the programs that you apply to in an order of preference. In addition, when using the spring joint application, you may be offered several places of study at the same time. However, because in Finland you can only accept one place of study per term, if you're accepted to multiple degree programs with your spring joint application, you have to choose one of these programs that you're applied to. Admitted to. So how this is different from the autumn joint application is that if you apply in the autumn application period using a joint application, so in September, you must place the degrees that you apply to in an order of preference. And you can only be offered one place of study in one program. So how this works, as a practical example, let's say that you apply to study a business degree at Aalto University, the universities of Turku, Oulu, and Vaasa, as well as the Hanken School of Economics. So 5 different options. You don't have to apply to 6. 5 is good for some. Also, let's say that these programs are in this same priority order. So Aalto number 1, Turku 2nd, Oulu 3rd, Vaasa 4th, and then Hanken School of Economics is 5th. When the results come in and you find out that you just barely didn't have enough points to get admitted to Aalto University, so your first priority number, you will then be offered a place to Turku or Oulu, which are the second and third priorities, but only to one of them if you have enough points. In this case, you would be offered a place to study at the University of Turku, and you are also allowed to stay in the waiting list for Aalto University. So even though you're not admitted there, if you don't have enough points, you can stay in the number 1 priority on the waiting list in case that enough people cancel and then you're admitted. However, if you are happy with the University of Turku admitting you, you can go ahead and accept your admission. However, if people, never mind, and then all of these other Vaasa, Hanken School of Economics, Oulu, they're all cancelled, the rest of them. So you can only be admitted into one place that you have highest enough points to get admitted to. And this is specifically in the autumn application. So once again, spring and autumn joint applications. Then we have something called separate application, which is currently open right now in December. So the second option was to use a separate application, which means that you apply to a university program by filling literally a separate application form for each study program or university. This means that programs that use a separate application cannot be applied to using a joint application or vice versa. So this answers your question. Using a separate application can be done in many different ways, and this depends on the actual specific school. However, one option is to send multiple separate applications individually for each program offered by the same university, so you can fill multiple separate applications. But the second way to do it is to use one application to multiple programs in that one university. However, if you want to apply to multiple universities, then you have to fill up multiple different separate applications. So these are the different ways that you can apply to study in Finland. And so basically, if you want to apply to study a data science in a bachelor's level, then you have to apply using a joint application in the spring term. So in the January period. Sorry guys, long answer, but this is really important to understand. Hopefully you got something out of this. Then let's get back to Roy's question. So the point was to, just a moment. There you go. So how are the international levels of trade certification from a degree from Finnish universities between or compared to other countries? So professional certification and licensing to work in a trade if someone has, say, a mechanical engineering degree from US and wants to practice in Finland or vice versa. Right, yeah, sure. So for example, this depends on the field itself. So for example, the kind of the worst fields in this term, or the most difficult ones, are medical fields, and anything that actually requires you to have a certificate, that requires you to have a specific degree in order by law to actually work on something. So for example, a lot of people actually want to come to study or work as a nurse in Finland. and they already have a bachelor's in nursing from their home country, say in the Philippines. The problem is that their degree that they have already done in the Philippines is not applicable in Finland, because we have a very heavily regulated healthcare sector here, and the degree is very specifically structured around the Finnish the healthcare sector and healthcare system. So, for example, people who want to come to work as nurses here, they either have to do a degree in nursing in Finland, in the entire degree, or if they get a job here, then they have to do at least X amount of courses to kind of fill in the gaps that they have from their own home country. However, having said that, for example, in terms of engineering, I'm not sure of the field-specific certifications. For example, if you have a very specific certification to work on some kind of equipment, or to do like structural design or something like this, I'm not aware of them. But what I can say is that those are not even close to being as difficult as what we have, for example, in the healthcare sector. It is pretty common that your degree in, for example, from the US or Canada is completely eligible to be used in Finland without any kind of extra education. Again, there might be some exceptions, but if you are, for example, a structural engineer from the US, it is highly likely that you can come to work in Finland without any problems. Of course, if you have learned to use the imperial system, that is going to be a bit of a problem, because we use the metric system. Again, I don't know how the, for example, are the universities that teach engineering, do they actually teach using metric systems versus imperials, because that's the international standard. But I'm not personally aware of these certificates and how they work, but I can say that I know that there's bunch of international talent in the fields of engineering, design, business, etc., who come here every single day without having to do a specific certificate. If you have a degree that is equivalent to a Finnish university degree, or bachelor's or master's, then you should be fine. Great. Then let's jump forward. The next question comes from Offense Lesego, who again comes from Botswana and is coming to study at Aalto, or applying to study at Aalto, to study environmental sciences. And the question is, hello, Oliver, I hope you're doing good. I am, thank you very much. I hope you're doing well as well. And I hope everyone has stayed safe with the current times. I'm planning on applying to Aalto University and possibly other universities in Finland during this current application period, so the master's period. However, I will finish my undergrad studies next May. And how will this affect my chances of getting admitted for the September intake, considering that my certificate won't be out by then? Great question. That depends on the university itself. Let's actually see. Let's see. So this depends on the actual program itself, because the different programs have different application schedules, and you can apply to study in Finland without having a high school or bachelor's degree diploma in hand. So if your studies are not yet done, but the thing is that you need to submit your degree certificate at a certain deadline. And I tried to look it up from Google. I didn't find the actual deadline for you. But what I would recommend you to do is to go and check out the exact program websites from each of these universities and check out these official schedules. Because the application period is open now, you can actually find the schedules there or from the studyinfo.fi website. And unfortunately, if your if your degree certificate, if you're not able to get and certify your degree certificate before the given deadline, then your application will be rejected, unfortunately. There's no leeway here. The universities are very strict about this. So make sure to check the schedule and the required documents, and at what point in time they require each of these documents to be uploaded or submitted. So yeah, that's the only thing that I can say here. Go and check out remember that the schedules might differ a bit between universities. So again, check each of their websites separately. The next question comes from ES Fleischmann. I know, saying that I sent a question on the forum about half an hour ago and it's still not answered. Yeah, sometimes the questions take a while. There's a bunch of them in the queue already. It will take me a bit time to go through all of the questions, but don't worry, I will get to the questions by the end of the stream. If I'm not able, then I will answer them next week. It simply takes a bit time because there's so many questions coming in, and if you want to make sure that your question is answered during the live stream, do note that I go live every single Thursday at 6:30 p.m. EEST, so Eastern European Standard Time, meaning that if you want to improve your chances of getting the question answered right away, you have to be here on time, submitting your question as one of the first persons, because afterwards it will take a while until I get to your question. Next one comes from Sain Than from India, who is applying to study in the next application period to Aalto University, and the program is Masters in Automation and Electrical Engineering or Communication Engineering. Awesome. The question is, what are the opportunities, job vacancies after completing my Masters in Automation and Electrical Engineering or in Communicational Engineering? Very hard to say. There's you have to take into consideration that Finland is basically a country of engineers. We have a long history of employing quite a bit of engineers, and if you, for example, look at the managing boards of the biggest companies in Finland, historically they have all been engineers. Nowadays it's more mixed and it's more diverse, but we are a country of engineers and we love engineering. So there's bunch of different jobs that you can do after you have completed your Masters in Automation and Electrical Engineering. You can work at a startup working on hardware. You can work on robotics. You can work in a big company, small company, medium-sized company. You can work as a consultant. You can work in the field. You can work with customers in the back office. There's a bunch of stuff. But if I, for example, check out let's see, automation. If we, for example, check out Aalto University Automation and Electrical Engineering, the website itself, they usually have a career opportunities paragraph here. So program graduates from the master's program in automation engineering and automation and electrical engineering enjoy excellent career opportunities in the public and private sectors, especially in a future full of autonomous systems and technological advancements. Blah 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 blah. You can also do postgraduate graduate studies if you want a PhD, for example. Again, as you can see here, there's no specific job titles that you could have, but they could be anything from systems engineer to automation engineer to robotics engineer to head of engineering to head of design, whatever. For example, as a interesting thing, I'm actually one of the founders of a new technology startup, and we develop indoor farming technology, automated indoor farming technology, and we are actually at some point going to need automation engineers and robotics specialists to build ourselves a automation system and platform. And for example, anyone who has a background in automation and electrical engineering would be extremely suitable for us. We're a small startup, but similar kind of jobs can be found from companies as large as Nokia, for example. Nokia is, for example, one of the biggest companies in Finland. of course, everyone knows Nokia phones, but nowadays they're fully focused on network development and 5G, for example. And they do a lot of, they have a lot of R&D teams that do like drones, automation, networking, they do military applications, civilian applications, everything that you can imagine. So, whatever. All right, so the next question comes from Fleischmann ES from Hungary, and he's applying. He has not yet decided whether or not he wants to study in Finland, but might be interested in studying in XAMK, University of Applied Sciences, in the field of information technology. And the question is, how hard is it to find a job as a student in Finland? Excuse me. That is a very good question. In general, it is not easy to find a job as a student in Finland. This does not have necessarily anything to do on whether or not you're an international student or a Finnish student or a Finnish native student. However, as a general rule of thumb, it is difficult to find a job in Finland as a student, especially in the beginning of your studies. This is simply because most employers prefer to hire, especially employers in your fields, prefer hiring people who can work there full time with a long job agreement, or and basically to work there for a long time. And they of course prefer to have someone who has more experience. This means that companies always prefer having near or recent graduates, and of course then more experienced people. So it is hard to find a job as a student simply because you don't have that much experience. The reason why it's a bit difficult to find jobs for international students is simply because you guys don't yet know how the Finnish recruitment market works, and you might not necessarily understand how the Finnish recruitment culture works. If you, for example, consider someone who is studying, two people who are studying in the third year, for example, their last year in Bachelors in information technology, and you have a Finnish person and then you have a person from Hungary, for example. The Finnish person has already worked multiple years in the Finnish job market, summer jobs when they're in high school or between studies. They have done like small jobs, bigger jobs, longer jobs. So they have already been through the application process for jobs multiple times during their youth. However, the person from Hungary would not necessarily have already done jobs in Finland. They might have already been working in Hungary or whatever country you're coming from. However, the problem is that the Finnish job market and the recruitment market works in a certain way, and there's certain things that you need to know. And this is why a lot of people are having some issues with finding a job, because the application, for example, the way that you write a motivation letter, the way that you behave in a interview might slightly differ from your country because of cultural differences. And this is one of the reasons why I have this channel, because I want to inform you guys not only on about studies, but also about work and how to find a job. And to reiterate, just to reiterate this, because this is such an important thing, if you are actually honestly interested in learning how to find a job as a student in Finland, you have to put in a lot of work. You have to study how to apply for jobs in Finland. And in that case, I would really recommend that you go to my channel and start watching these interviews that I have here. I will start posting these kind of interviews every 2 weeks, where I speak with someone who has a lot of experience in the job market in Finland as a recruiter, because they know all the tricks and tips and the mistakes that international students do when they apply for jobs. If you want to get a job, you have to learn, and these are the best way to start learning about the insights on the Finnish job market. What I can say is that even though it doesn't matter what kind of a degree you have from any kind of university. If you have a PhD from Aalto University and then you have a PhD from Harvard, that will not guarantee you a job even in McDonald's. because it is always, always, always up to you and your ability to actually sell yourself into the job. So take into account that there's so many things that you need to know about the Finnish job market, and one of the biggest things that you need to understand, that sitting in the library 24/7, it will not get you a job, even though you have a full 5 out of 5 GPA. You will not find a job that way. You will need to start networking and building your career already while you're studying. So that's a kind of an overall answer to your question. The next one comes from Shannon. Again from the US. Awesome to have you here once again, even though it's quite early there. And the question is a cultural question, and I want to work towards a Finnish citizenship. Cool. The idea of my taxes paying for programs I believe is compelling. The idea of paying my taxes towards programs that I do believe in is compelling. That's actually a funny way to say this. Should I use that as a talking point in my essays, or should I be coy about that aspiration? That's actually a really interesting question. Again, disclaimer, I have no personal experience on writing motivation letters for universities, because Finnish people, when they apply for universities, we don't have to write a motivation letter. In addition, I have no experience in processing university applications. So disclaimer, I am not a professional. This is not professional guides. This is simply my gut feeling. What I would do personally, if I were you, I would definitely speak at least a bit about your aspirations on becoming a Finnish citizen and the way that you are, your plans on not necessarily like contributing into the community, but your aspirations on career development in Finland. Why Finland? What do you want to do here? How does Finland fit into your future career prospects or aspirations? And how does your potential studies in Finland actually contribute to your career and life in Finland in general? Try to tell a story about your future, and why is Finland a fitting place for that? Why is that university in Finland fitting for that upcoming story of your life, basically? One more thing about this. Again, this is not this is simply based on my experience on reading a lot of job applications from my time in working in a recruitment company, and based on a lot of discussions with very highly experienced HR professionals. A very common thing for recruiters that they say about job applications and motivation letters is that a lot of them are really boring. A lot of them really don't bring up any kind of emotions, because they are basically these copy-pasted keyword-filled lists about you, about why are you such a cool person, or why are you so awesome. That is not what employers or universities want to hear. They want to hear, what are you going to do for them? Why are you going to contribute to the society? Why are you going to contribute to the company? How are you going to build yourself in the future to contribute to the to Finland, to the company, whatever. So try to put yourself into the shoes of the person who is reading your application, and really try to think, like, what do they want out of the person that they hire or admit to the university? Yeah. The next question comes from Stefan from England, and the question is, Moikka Oliver, what is up? I've asked a question before, but I just want to know from a native speaker's perspective around how long do you think it'll take for someone to learn Finnish to be proficient enough to work in Finland? Yeah, that's a good question. My honest opinion, if you don't make it a full-time job to learn Finnish, a couple of years maybe, if you really put yourself into it. What I'm basing this on is a couple of friends of mine who have actually learned Finnish. It's taking them multiple years to get to proficient enough to actually work. They're still not native, not even close. We can have really good conversations with them. Then, for example, my girlfriend's brother's wife, who is not Finnish, has been studying Finnish actively for a couple of years, and then she has, of course, learned some Finnish together with her current husband for multiple years, and I think she has actively studied Finnish for 2-3 years now, and she's doing really well. But it's gonna take multiple years, to be honest. But you have to think about learning Finnish as a marathon instead of a sprint. And if you, for example, think about the way that you learned any other language, German or in your case, English is our native language. But for example, for me to get this proficient in English, it has taken me 29 years. I started studying English when I was 7 in school. So it has taken me 22 years to get this proficient. And taking into account that the last 15 years, my main language of work has been English. I've gotten it everywhere, from the internet, from watching movies, reading stuff, etc. So a few years at least. Yevgenia giving out a €3 super chat. Yevgenia, as always, I appreciate you so much. That is going to go directly into my coffee fund. Thank you so much. I'm going to have a really nice espresso tomorrow morning to wake, so that I can actually write my thesis, because that's something that I'm working on right now. I do appreciate it. Pratek, your question about the application requirements for Masters in Computer Sciences depends on the university that you're applying to. There's no simple answer to this. You have to first find out what university you want to apply to, and then they will have the specific requirements for that for the program for you. There's no way to simply answer this, because Finland has 14 different universities and 22 different universities of applied sciences. All of them have different requirements for their master's degrees in computer sciences. Plus, you have to take into account that the actual minimum requirements to get admitted, that is not public information. They only give you the general requirement, application requirements. But then who gets admitted on what basis, that is not public information. So it's impossible to say for sure. But you have to find first find the universities that you want to apply to, and then you have to check the specific application requirements for each of those universities and their programs. That's as simply as I can put it. Because even if I pull out, for example, the application requirements for Aalto University, the application requirements for the University of Helsinki are going to be different. So there's no point for me to point out the specific requirements for one university, because you need to first know which universities you want to apply to. The next question comes from Arjun. And the question is, after uploading all the required documents during the application process, when do we need to send the documents by post? Depends on the university again, and the universities will have their deadlines for receiving the documents on their website. So make sure, sorry, let's backtrack a bit. As mentioned, the universities have the deadlines for receiving the applications by post. The documents. So those deadlines are not deadlines for sending them, but the receiving them. And you have to take into account that, especially during COVID, now that postal services are very strained, you have to send all documents in good time before they have to be received. Because if they are received late, that's basically your problem, and then you will not be admitted, or the application will be cancelled. Because I'm asking this because Tampere University has mentioned on their website that as soon as possible, I applied online and I should be sending the documents by post. Does it apply to the same way to Aalto University? Let's see. Just a moment. Just a moment. Let's actually check it here. So, here's for example one. This is the Aalto University Masters in Automation and Electrical Engineering. Deadline for a certified copy of the degree certificate to arrive at the admission services. Deadline for the result of the National Language Proficiency Certificate test to arrive at the admission services. So let's see. No. They should have all the deadlines here. So in these tables, if you don't find them, what I recommend you to do is to send Aalto University admission services an email, aalto.admissions, so that's plural, admissions at aalto.fi. So send an email to that email address and ask them about the deadlines and tell them that you didn't find them on the website. Because all the deadlines will depend on the actual university and specifically the university degree program that you're applying to. All right. Awesome. The next question comes from Abhi from Norway, who is an Indian. He is currently studying at the NTNU Trondheim in Norway, and specifically the field of neurosciences. Awesome. And the question is, how can I pay... how can I get paid for a thesis at the University of Helsinki or Aalto? Or how can I do a paid one-year thesis at University of Helsinki or Aalto? So I don't know what you mean with a one-year thesis. So if you're meaning like a master's thesis itself and having to get that paid, then you basically have to pitch yourself to a company, and you need to find a company that is paying for your thesis. The university will not pay for your thesis unless then again you're doing a PhD. Some companies actually want students to do thesis studies for them, and they will pay for them. Some will pay well, some will pay a bit less. And but the thing is that if you do a paid thesis, you have to take into account that you have to at the same time satisfy the university as well as the employer, basically. So the topic that you do the thesis on has to be accepted by the university. So you can't just do your thesis out of any topic that the company wants, but rather you have to first accept the topic with the university, and then if the company wants to pay you for it, then that's fine. But do note that one of the things that I've heard a lot of professors say that is a problem with paid theses is that most companies want to have practical theses, while universities want to have more academic theoretical theses, which means that there's a clash here. And the better your thesis is for the company, again, this is not there are exceptions, but this is a rule that this is the rule of thumb that I've heard happens quite a lot. The better the thesis is for the company, the worse it actually might be for the university itself, because the university wants you to do a theoretical thesis, while many companies want it to be as practical as possible. And if you do it very practically, then the academic value of the thesis will go down, and that means that you will not get as high grades as you could maybe do. Rifat, welcome to the stream. I'm actually doing really well. Hopefully you're doing well as well. Awesome to have you in the stream. Abhishek asking, do research lab pay for research work from undergrads? Some do, some don't. But universities don't pay for the thesis ever. That's just something that we don't do here in Finland. Arjuna sending once again a super chat. Thank you so much. I do appreciate it. Saying, Oliver, last time you didn't tell me how much was a beer was in Finland. In Peru, a 6-pack would be around 10 Dollars. Well, that's cheap. In Finland, 6-pack of beer. Let me just check super quickly. Let's see, a 6-pack of like normal beer. Let's see. A six. Well, I can't find the prices on the web, but a 6-pack of beer can be anything from 12 euros to 20 euros or something. I actually haven't bought any 6-packs for years because I usually nowadays only drink like craft beer. But it's way more expensive than that, definitely. And usually the 6-pack beers are not the best beer, so those are usually kind of the normal like factory beers. But if you want to buy like good craft beer, then a bottle is like from 3 euros to up to even 8 euros in a shop, and then in a bar, pint of beer, a good beer is like 8-9 euros, or a glass of beer so it's way more expensive. Let's say that 10 euros doesn't really buy you that many good beers. It buys you one really good beer, but not that many good beers. A few okay beers. Let's put it this way. Yeah, Abhishek, research labs at the universities do not pay you for your thesis if you're doing a bachelor's or a master's thesis. No. If you're doing a PhD, then the university itself might finance some of your theses, but or your studies, but not all of them, and you have to find financing on your own for at least most of your PhD. But in Finland, bachelor's and master's theses are never paid by the university, as a general rule of thumb. Cool. Excuse me. The next question comes from Charlotte from England. Awesome to have you here again. And the question is, can you only make a study info account application during the application period for bachelor's degrees? Right. So can you make a account or application to the studyinfo.fi service during the application period? Yes, you can only apply through the studyinfo.fi website only during the application periods. The applications will not be open otherwise. So there's not like these redundancy or generally open applications. Do note that the different applications for different universities are open at different times a year. So there's almost always some programs that are open for applications, but yeah, you can only apply during the application period itself. Then the second question is, can you take out loans to finance accommodation and tuition? Interesting question. That's actually a really good question. I have no idea. But I would guess that if you apply to study in Finland and you need to finance your studies with a loan, I don't think that you can do it if you try to get a loan from a Finnish bank. I would guess that you would need to take the loan, for example, from an English bank, for a local bank, because you need to have the money on your account before. Actually, this doesn't apply to you because it's still in the European Union, but sure, you can. I guess you could finance your studies with a loan. I don't see any reason not to. Again, disclaimer, I'm not 100% sure, but this is just my gut feeling. Because, for example, Finnish students finance their studies with a student loan. It's only for Finnish nationals, but I have student loan, not that much, but not even close to anything that I would have in the US. It's like pennies on the dollar compared to the US, but yeah, I don't think, why not? I don't think there's a reason why not. Anyways, the next question, before we actually jump into the next question, Arjun saying that Kudos Oliver, 40 likes already crossed. Awesome. That is actually really cool. Thank you very much, guys. The next goal, let's say 50 likes. That would be awesome. So let's try to aim for 50 likes. And actually, we have just crossed 4,000 subscribers on the channel. Awesome. I really need to get a soundboard so that I can get these celebratory sounds for the stream. Awesome. We are currently at 4,005 subscribers. That is actually a really cool milestone to hit. And the channel has been growing really rapidly in the recent months. So thank you very much, guys, for allowing me to do what I do by subscribing to the channel. That's awesome. If you are not subscribed for some reason, do consider subscribing, and remember to put on the all notifications from the notification bell. The reason is that if you have just some notifications, YouTube will not let you know about every single one of my videos when I upload them. The only way to have be notified about all videos is to have all notifications on. Cool. All right. The next question comes from Karina, who comes from Peru and is applying to study in Finland in the next application period, and I'd like to apply to the Universities of Helsinki or Oulu. Just a second. A bit of water. And Karina is interested in English studies or technology and education. Cool. And the question is, I'm still working on my motivation letter. Good. Keep working on it. Do keep in mind that there's still, the application period is, the application period lasts until January, the first week of January. I would not leave the application to the last minute, as a general rule of thumb, because if anything goes wrong, it's your fault. So apply on time, but it's still early. It's the 3rd of December, so you still have time. So take your time with the motivation letter because it's important. I have some friends who are helping me with the editing. Excellent, good. Especially with the proofreading. Make sure to have at least a couple of people proofread your motivation letter before you send it. Especially people who actually speak as fluent English as possible and who that actually have really good written English, so that your motivation letter is not negatively impacted by bad language. My question is in regards to the number of characters. The University of Helsinki requires to write 300,000? Karina, I think you're missing some zeros there. 3,000 characters including spaces. How strict is this requirement? My letter has so far 3,100 characters, and do you think I might get disqualified? Yeah. So really good question. Definitely keep to the limit. I'm not sure if this is going to get you disqualified, but it will definitely drop your points. So as a general rule, this applies to every single one of you who are live or in the future in the replay. Please keep to the instructed requirements and the limits of the applications when applying to study in Finland. For example, if your motivation letter needs to be at maximum 3,000 characters including spaces, or if, for example, your CV has to fit on one page, or if your something needs to be something else, keep to that limit. Not only because the application system might actually not accept anything else, or if the motivation letter, for example, is longer, the system actually might not even accept it. But in addition, you're definitely going to lose points if you don't follow the requirements. For example, actually here, Karina, one thing is to consider. I'm not sure whether you have to upload the motivation letter as a PDF or whether you have to input the motivation letter as text into a text field in the actual application form. Make sure to check this before you apply, because if you have to input your motivation letter, the actual text, into a text field instead of submitting it as a PDF, this will mean that text box will be physically restricted to 3,000 characters, and anything above it will not be inputted there or pasted there. So this is why you have to absolutely keep to the restrictions. It's just good. It's just good practice in itself. Cool. Awesome, thank you, guys, everyone, for the congratulations. Let's next aim for 5,000 subscribers. That would be something that means a huge amount to me. That would be awesome. Cool. Next up, we have Skylar Gulati. Skylar, who comes from the USA, and has not yet decided whether or not he wants to study in Finland, but is interested in the University of Helsinki and specifically astrophysics. Awesome. I love Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's one of my heroes. I absolutely love astrophysics for People in a Hurry. That is one of my favorite books all time. Actually, guys, if you have seen the astrophysics documentary Cosmos, that is actually voiced by Neil deGrasse Tyson, let me know in the chat, because it's one of my favorite documents ever. I love physics, I love astrophysics, I love anything that has to do with space. I've been watching all the SpaceX events live during the couple of last years, and I don't understand anything about it, but I think it's just mind-blowingly interesting. The question is, do master's programs in Finland require an entrance exam, and do you know if it is a different exam for international students? Yeah, no. So, okay, scratch. As a general rule of thumb, master's studies do not require an entrance exam in Finland. There might be some individual exceptions. However, a general rule of thumb that no, they do not. Usually, master studies, what is required from you and what is graded is your previous studies and your academic record. Especially since you're applying to hard sciences, I think that might be weighted quite heavily. So you really want to focus on school in your bachelor's degree and try to do your undergrad as well as possible. In addition, you will have most likely a motivation letter and some schools require a letter of recommendation, and they usually prefer a letter of recommendation from your professor rather than from, for example, from your boss. Again, because in Finnish universities, the academics is more heavily emphasized compared to practicalities. So having a letter of recommendation from your professor is better than from your boss. In addition, you might have to do, depending on the degree, you might have to do some kind of a language exam. So to prove your proficiency in English, IELTS. Some schools are fine with you doing just the SATs. TOEFL is one of them, and then Cambridge language exam is one of them that is commonly accepted. But then, in addition, some schools might specifically require you to do some kind of an aptitude test. So, for example, a lot of master's degrees in business require you to do the GREs, GMATs, or something similar. Usually, SATs are usually used for bachelor's degrees, and then the masters are used as different requirement. However, for example, let's see. Actually, let's jump into Google and check your case. University of Helsinki, Masters in Astrophysics. Let's actually check this right now. Particle Physics and Astrophysics Sciences Master's degree in the University of Helsinki. Just I would kill to understand something about it. This is such an interesting topic. Instructions and requirements. And let's see the actual requirements. Required attachments. Certificate of language proficiency. Other attachments, a photocopy of your passport. Motivation letter. Needs to be written as well. Educational documents, of course, an officially certified copy of your degree. For example, in this case, your undergraduate degree. All right, that's cool. And then, excuse me. Factors affecting admission. applicability of the studies serving as the grounds for your application. So, for example, this is actually something that I speak quite often about during the streams, because people ask this about this all the time. So, for example, if you want to do a master's degree in business, based on this, your previous degree, so your bachelor's degree or undergraduate, has to be applicable, has to make you eligible to apply for that master's degree program. So, for example, if you want to do a master's in finance, you cannot apply to that program if you have a master's in education, early education. I'm sorry, a bachelor's in early education, or like bachelor's in physics. These have to be your first degree has to make you eligible to apply for the master's. For example, in your case, I would guess that any hard sciences like mathematics, physics, if you do like chemistry, for example, that might make you eligible. But however, for example, they have a link here for detailed information on the scoring. Actually, if you are still alive, I'll just link this here on the chat, in the chat. You can go and check it out. But then academic performance in the studies, so especially with the hard sciences, the academic record is heavily emphasized. And then motivation letter and your study plan that you need to include in the application form. So these kind of things are weighted. And then if you, for example, look at the detailed information on the scoring used by the Faculty of Science in the master's admission processes, specifically in the University of Helsinki, mind you. This does not apply to all universities in Finland. Here, they actually have the points here as well. So, applicability of previous studies serving as ground for application. Academic performance, motivation and study plan, portfolio, if you need one, and etc. And there's quite a lot of information here as well. So check out these websites. And you will find everything that you need to find out about the application requirements from those websites. But I hope that I answered at least your question, somewhat closely. Next one comes from Arthur from Colombia. Arthur is a regular on the channel, and there's a couple of questions here, and he's saying, hello Oliver, I had a doubt regarding the joint application process. If I shortlist multiple courses from multiple universities, basically multiple degrees from multiple universities while applying for the joint application, question number 1, will the rule of making 6 entries be restricted to the count of courses I apply to? Or will it be clubbed or put together under a single category? For example, if I shortlist 3 courses from Aalto, 2 from the University of Helsinki, and 3 from Tampere University, will all of these be considered as 3 entries or 8 entries? Good question. Those will be counted as 8 entries. So that it's specifically the amount of different degree programs. So in this case, we're using a bit of a different terminology here. So a course, I'm using the term degree program. That is usually the term that we use in Finland. The degree is master's or bachelor's degree, so it's referring to the level of degree, and then the program itself is referring to the actual program. Again, we're not using the term major here, because you can major in multiple different specializations under one program. So for example, if I apply to study business at Aalto University, I apply to a master's level degree program, so master's level degree program. However, Aalto University doesn't have a general business program. Rather, I would apply to, for example, the program of economics, or I could apply to the program of international business or marketing, for example. And then within those programs, for example, under economics program or the program of marketing, you can then structure your own degree pretty freely, and then you can basically choose what kind of courses you do want to specialize in. So there's multiple layers of terminology that we use here. But yeah, to answer your question, that would then mean that you apply to, you have to count the different programs that you apply to. So if you apply to 3 different programs at Aalto, 2 from Helsinki University and 3 from Tampere, that would then be 8 programs. So you need to cut out 2 of them. All right. So yeah, basically while filling the joint application form, is it university specific or course specific? It is course specific. Number 2, if I want to apply for some specific university via individual application and some other universities via joint application, am I permitted to do so? I know it might be a repetitive process, but it might be helpful in some specific cases. Good question. Unfortunately, the answer here is, in general, no. And the only reason for this is that, the answer here is yes and no. All right. What you have to understand is that when we're talking about the joint application and the separate application, or the, as you said, individual application, these things happen at different times. So the separate applications happen around the year, but the bulk of them happen during December and January, or early January. However, joint applications always happen at the same time, and there's 2 different times a year that you can apply to English taught degrees using the joint application. The first one is in September, or however you put this. The first one one is in September and the second is in January. So sure, you could always apply to a specific program using the separate/individual applications during the December application process. And then you can apply to other programs using the joint application process, because these are 2 different application systems. But you have to take into account that in Finland, you can only accept 1 study place per term. So because if you apply to study through the separate applications/individual applications that happen in December, those applications are for the autumn intake for the next year. The joint application that happens in January 2021, those are also for the autumn intake in 2021. The only difference here is that the application processes happen at a bit different time, meaning that if you apply to schools with the separate applications in December, and then you apply to schools with the joint one in January, you can still only accept 1 study place for 2021 September or autumn intake. One more thing, that is the reason why these are separated a bit, like separate applications in December and joint applications in January, is that one of the reasons is that the majority of master's applications actually happen with the separate applications in December, and most of the bachelor's applications happen in January with the joint application. Not all, but the majority. So I know that this is so freaking confusing. I would really want the Finnish Ministry of Education to make this simpler, because this is like even way too confusing for me as well. And I've been studying this stuff for quite a while now, and I still don't get everything. So I understand if it's confusing. So just keep the questions coming if there's anything that isn't clear. Yeah, Yevgenia saying that we need to aim for 100,000 subscribers to get the silver YouTube button. That would be awesome. I don't see that happening in a while. But that would be an awesome goal to have. Ivailo Kostov, awesome to have you here as well. Welcome to the stream. Elena, awesome to have you here as well. Who else do we have here? New people. Hossein, Pratek, Vivian, awesome to have you here as well. Proxy 12. Let's see. We have Rifat. Awesome to have you here as well, guys. Once more, if you have been posting questions into the chat, remember that I only jump into the chat every now and then. And if you want me to answer your question live, please post your question into the Google form. There's already quite a lot of different questions in the Google form, and I will not be able to get into every single one of them, because I have to end the stream in a bit, because I have to keep working on my thesis today. But don't worry, I will get to your question in the live stream next week, and I will start next week's live stream with your questions if any one of them have been left over. We're currently at 45 likes. It would be awesome if we can actually hit the 50 like threshold. during the stream, so we still need 5 more likes. The next question comes from Denise, and the question is, there's 2 questions. When you were in elementary school, did one teacher teach each lesson? Or were some lessons taught by only one teacher? What lessons, if any, was the one teacher teaching? Great question. And I don't know how it works nowadays. It might have changed quite a bit since it's been, 20 years? Or 27 years. However, when I was in elementary school, so from grade 1 to 6, most of our classes, like the clear majority, were actually taught by one teacher. So we had like this class teacher who we stayed with for the entire time, and she actually taught us most of our classes. I was in a school where we actually, our main language of education was actually Swedish in our class, and we started having our Finnish taught classes after 3rd year, so 3rd grade. So our teacher was actually a Swedish speaker, so she would then teach all of our Swedish speaking classes all the way to the end of elementary school, for example, math, history, and this kind of stuff. But we started having Finnish language lessons, for example, PT, and then, actually history was in Finnish for the last years, like carpentry was in or handcrafting, that was in Finnish as well, and by another teacher. Then we had chemistry wasn't by another teacher who was actually specialized in teaching chemistry, so not all teachers can teach chemistry. You have to have a specialization in that. Then we had our German teacher was, or language teachers who taught like French, German, or Spanish. They were different teachers, and yeah, that's it basically. But like most of the like the big subjects that you study, like math, writing, reading, Swedish, Finnish, all of this kind of stuff, those were all taught by the same teacher all throughout our elementary school. Really cool question. Second question is, what do people who work at the same time while studying in Finland generally do? In terms of work, depends a lot. Some people work in a grocery store. Some people work in the restaurant field, or restaurant sector. Some people just really like being a barista. So some people are in like espresso houses or any kind of cafeterias. I have a couple of friends who actually worked at cold storage facilities. They pay really well, especially for the night shifts. I was a sales clerk at a big this shopping mall basically for a couple of years, and then some people do get part-time jobs in their field. So for example, I used to work part-time at a bank, for example, for a while in customer basic, like the basic of basic customer level services. And what else? Yeah, basically you can do anything that you want if there's a bunch of different things. The one thing that I would recommend you to do is still, if you come to study like a university degree in Finland, I would not necessarily go for like cleaning jobs. Of course they pay money, and if you're not able to get anything else, then of course, but I would try to get a bit higher. And unfortunately, it is the case that for some reason, because many international students don't really understand how the recruitment market in Finland works, and thus they're not able to get these better, higher level jobs. Some people do end up doing like cleaning or working in a McDonald's. That's completely fine. It's good work experience, and they pay money. So it depends on you, I would say. The next one comes from Arthur. Yeah, I actually noticed that you posted one a while ago. This one is for you. The question. Arthur, you actually have the same question twice in the form. So this one, am I possible to apply only to one university using the study info service? I'm considering applying only to Aalto. So in this case, should I use separate or joint applications? I actually answered this just a while ago, like 15 minutes ago, in a very broad, with a very broad answer. So you might have to go a bit backwards. Don't worry, I did answer it pretty extensively just a moment ago. Next one comes from Arjun. Dennis, you're welcome, of course. Now the question is, as I have already applied to Aalto University through the studyinfo.fi service, am I allowed to apply for another course or degree program at a different university? Because I'm preparing my motivation letter for applying for Tampere University. That is a good question. With the same joint application, yes, you should be able to apply for a different university. Specifically, now that we are talking about separate applications for master's degrees, yes, you are. Because you have to apply to master's programs during December with separate applications that are only intended for specific universities. So yes, my answer is yes. In my understanding, you should be able to apply for multiple different universities during December, but you have to fill out the specific application forms for each university. The next one comes from Taner from Turkey. And he is applying also in the upcoming or the current application period. And he wants to study computer sciences at the University of Tampere. Awesome. And the question is, I really want to study in Finland. Thank you for all the awesome videos. You're welcome. Awesome to hear that you are actually getting some value out of them. By the way, if you're getting value out of this stream, do consider smashing the like button. We're 1 like away from 50 likes. That would be awesome to reach that milestone. Anyway, my question is, how can I apply for bachelor's degree without the SATs? I have a high school degree in my country, and I'm studying medical school. Because today I read about today I read that if you're able to go to a university in your own country, you can go to study in a Finnish university without doing the SATs. Interesting. I've never heard of that. I would really like to know where you heard this from. If this is like a rumor from the interwebs, or did you hear from a person, or did you actually read this from a credible source? I've never heard that you could actually go around the SATs if you already have been accepted to study in a university in your own country. I highly doubt that this is true. It might be true, but I highly doubt it. You need to check. You need to make sure to check the source for this. I've never heard of this in my life, so I'm very skeptical about this. I don't have a straight answer for you because this is a completely new question. I've never heard of this before, so I would need to check. But I don't know where to look for, so I will not go looking right now. Because I have to go through the other questions. But yeah, I would recheck the sources, definitely. There are some universities in Finland. Okay, let's go a bit back. So the question is, the first part of the question is basically, how can I apply for a bachelor's without the SATs? This depends on the field. So again, not all universities require you to do the SATs, even if you apply for bachelor's. If you, for example, want to do a degree in computer sciences, I am not sure if they require a bachelor's. Let's actually see. All the bachelor's in English. Let's see. So we are in, just as an example, there's of course other bachelor's degrees in other universities as well, but I know how the website at Aalto University is structured, so I know what to look for. So, for example, if we look at the program in computational engineering, it's the closest to computer sciences. It's not named the same, but it's basically the same thing. There, how to apply. Yeah. So, for example, at Aalto University, if you apply to study computer sciences, you need the computer computational engineering. You need to do the SATs. There's no way around this, and they're very strict about it. So, again, the thing that you said that you heard from someone that you don't have to do the SATs if you have already been accepted to study in your own country, I've never heard of that. So recheck your source. Make sure to check the source. Then the next question comes from Christine from Georgia, and who has not yet decided whether or not she wants to study in Finland, but is interested in doing a master's in law. And the question is it possible to get certified as a lawyer after doing 2 years of master's program? Yeah, if you graduate as a master's in law, you will then be able to practice law in Finland. I don't remember exactly how the certification works. I know that for example, the certification to practice law in the US, for example, is super complicated because you have different states and you need to pass the bar to practice law in different places in the US. Actually, let me check. Let's see. Let's see if I can find this quickly. Just a moment. Let's see. Sorry, guys, this is taking a while. I'm trying to. Let's see. Actually, I will just take you with me on the trip. Let's see. Master's program, master's business law. Let's see. After completing the master program in international law, you will be awarded a master's in international and comparative law degree title. Please note that the completion of this degree does not qualify graduates for positions which specifically require a Finnish Masters of Law degree. Right, so oikeustieteiden maisteri is a specific title. Yeah, okay, so that tells me that you need a specific degree / certificate in order to practice law in a specific way. So if you want to become, for example, an attorney in Finland, then you need to have a specific type of a degree. And I will not be able to go into more detail here. But what I recommend you to do is to, Christine, if you want to contact the University of Helsinki, about their law faculty of law about this. For example, in the you can find the contact information from their website. Just Google University of Helsinki Faculty of Law contact, and you can ask them about the specifics about practicing law in Finland, and they will be able to give you a direct answer to this question. Anyways, the next question comes from Prateek, again, who comes from India and is applying to the University of Helsinki this application period to do a master's in computer sciences. And the question is, what are the requirements of master's in computer sciences? I could not find them on the website. They should be on the website. So let me see. University of Helsinki, master's in computer science. There. And then here, how to apply, and here's the instructions and requirements at studyinfo.fi website. And again, this website, which looks a bit 90-ish, this is the official website for the applications that is upheld by the Ministry of Education in Finland. So this is the official website. Application process, and then student admission and required attachments. So, an officially certified copy of your degree certificate, and then you need a certificate of language proficiency, photocopy of your passport, and a written motivation letter or application form. And then if you look at the student admission factors, again, what are which things are scored in terms of your application? The applicability of your previous studies, your academic performance in your previous studies, as well as your motivation letter. So everything can be found on this website under this second subheading, application process, and under these two menus here. So Google University of Helsinki Masters in Computer Sciences, and you will get this result. Go here to this link, and then go a bit downwards to this heading, how to apply, and click this link, instructions and requirements at studyinfo.fi service. All the information is here. All right. Yevgenia saying that the moral is, let us all become IT specialists and engineers, and we won't have any problems with being employed all over the world. Yeah, that is pretty much true. It's not just a joke, it's actually pretty much true. Try to think about any of the programs that cannot be automated and done by robots, and you're gonna be good. The next question comes from Yevgenia. The question is, what is the attitude of IT recruiters and employers towards a bit older employees, about 40 years old? There's absolutely no difference to compared to other applicants. Age discrimination in Finland is illegal, and for example, you don't have to give your age in your application. And if you're asked about, for example, your age or, for example, your family background, that is illegal. You do not have to answer it. For example, there's a lot of stories that when you apply to work wherever, like in the States, if you are a woman and you, for example, have been planning on getting pregnant and getting kids, some employers would actually not choose you because they don't want to have an employee who would then get pregnant. For example, if a recruiter asks you about your future plans for your family, that is illegal. They cannot ask you about, for example, whether or not you want to have kids, because that again, it's illegal. So, but what I can say is that in terms of your age, with age comes experience. So, for example, if you're more experienced because you have more work experience, then that's a good thing. So, but yeah, age as a number, no, nothing. There's absolutely nothing there, unless you're like super close to being at a age where you need to retire. Then that might be a bit of a different thing. In many countries, this field is full of young people and full of stereotypes. Is there any chance to find a job in IT in Finland? Absolutely yes. Again, there is no age discrimination here, and even though young people are employed in IT jobs, the more experience you have, the better. So with age comes experience, and the better you do your job, the more likely you're going to get a job. So that's the rule of thumb here. All right, next question comes from Jay from Sri Lanka, and who is applying this application period to Aalto University to study software engineering / data sciences. And the question is there any disadvantage applying to multiple different programs such as software engineering and data science? Even though they both go hand in hand, does it look like I'm not focused on one goal in the application evaluation process? No, there's absolutely no impact on whether or not you apply to multiple different programs, with the only exception when you apply in the autumn using the joint application form. Again, remember that you have to, in the autumn, when you apply in September in the joint application, you have to put all the six different programs that you apply to in a priority order. And then you will, if you get you are going to be admitted to that place which is highest on your priority list and which you have enough points to get admitted. But there's no other impact of this in your application whatsoever. For example, you're saying, asking here, does this have any impact on your possibilities on getting a scholarship? None. Absolutely no. The system allows you to apply to multiple schools. That's it. It doesn't have any impact on your application. Do note that if what does have impact is that, for example, if you apply to multiple master's programs and you have to send motivation letters to each of those programs separately, you have to remember that you have to custom write each of those motivation letters to each of those universities. Because if you just send this bulk copy-pasted motivation letter to each university, that is going to negatively impact your chances. Then again, if you apply with a form that only allows you to upload one motivation letter, then it will not impact your. That's a different question. The next question comes from Shahryar, who comes from India and has not yet decided whether or not he wants to study in Finland, but is interested in the University of Helsinki in the field of business. And the question is, if I go and apply for a work visa, so residence permit for work, are there any opportunities to study in Finland going through this visa? No, you need to have a residence permit for studies in order to study in Finland. So no, you need to specifically apply for that kind of a permit. So, for example, if you come to Finland and you have a working permit, working visa, and not a permanent residence permit, you are not allowed to study. Or if you apply to study, then you have to apply for a study visa as well. So, yeah, no. Next one comes from John from the US. Awesome to have you here as well. The question is, John is interested in data sciences, and the question is, hi, Oliver, I'm currently working in a Finnish software organization. Cool. I plan to study in Finland and support my master studies by working part-time for the student current organization itself. But today we discussed about burning out, and that is something which I'm concerned about. I mean, you said you have to let go of something, but if I secure a job from there, won't it make things a bit smoother for me? What is your opinion? Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very good question, and thanks for bringing this up. If and when you are... Okay, there's a couple of points here that I want to make. Of course, if you already have a job and you're going to study while working for the same employer that you have already been working with, you can of course negotiate them with a bit better. So, for example, about flexible work hours, especially in like software companies, the working hours are pretty flexible usually. So you can maybe talk with your boss and say that you want to do your master's, and take into account it's good for them that you actually study more. So it's always positive for the company as well. So you can always tell your boss that, hey, I would like to do my master's as well, but I would also love to study. Keep working with you, not only because I want to combine the studies and work, and I can do better with my job, but also because, of course, I need to finance my studies. Would that be fine? Could I, for example, do a bit lower hours or smaller hours or less days in work, and try to get some flexibility because you already have good rapport with your boss about this. The second thing is that since you are already working in a Finnish software company, Finnish organizations are usually really flexible about this, and depending, of course, on the company. John, if you want to tell everyone in the chat what the company is, or if you want to, for example, tell me the company in the Discord server via a DM, that's fine as well. But I know a lot of Finnish software companies that, for example, operate in the US, and I can maybe give you kind of a heads up about whether or not they will be willing to do this. I'd say this way. But yeah, burning out, definitely. The one thing that you should keep in mind is specifically how many hours do you work, combining them with your studies. I would recommend that you start your studies with smaller amount of work hours, just to get used to the university culture and the way that universities studies are structured and done in Finland, because that helps you integrate into the university a bit better. While compared to if you work like maximum hours and then you do school, you don't really have any time to relax and to kind of process everything that you've learned. So start with smaller hours, and then gradually, once you actually get to your studies, then increase the hours as you see fit. And as we spoke before, listen to yourself, and especially listen to your body, and try to keep active dialogue open dialogue with your boss about this, because they will understand, again, because it's beneficial for the company for you to study a higher degree, because that's beneficial for the company, and they don't want you to burn out any more than anyone else. So they want you to also stay healthy, so they should be pretty flexible about this. The next question comes from Yevgenia. And the question is, there's two questions. First one, what character features are valued by IT employers? Impossible to say. I would say, impossible to say because it depends on the company. But what I would say is the most valued kind of like personal feature is willingness and ability to learn fast, because the field is changing extremely quickly, and you need to be able to learn new things quickly and on your own. So, for example, you might be given a project where you have no idea what you're doing, but then you just need to simply to learn. Study. Need to be able to study new different technologies and different processes, etc. On your own. That's I'd say number one. Yeah, I don't really want to start listing out others because it depends on the company and their culture, but this is common to the field. How can a person contribute to the well-being of the company? By being active. Many Finnish companies love the fact their employees are active in the kind of company culture and building the culture and helping each other out. So if you just want to be an employee who kind of like punches the card every morning and every evening, that's fine as well. You do the job for the salary. But if you want to be an active participant in the job organizational culture, that's cool as well. Second question, are there any courses in Finland that teach Finnish intensively for a longer period of time, a year or something like that? Yeah, there are a couple of courses. For example, there's this one course organized by the city of Helsinki that is specifically for highly educated migrants. So, for example, people who have a higher degree and who are moving to Finland to work. And the idea of this course is to help them integrate into the culture faster. However, these are pretty rare, and they actually have prerequisites. So you already need to have some Finnish skills in order to get into these courses. I don't remember the name of the course, but I'm pretty sure you can find it if you just Google City of Helsinki language course for highly educated people or something. I don't know, something like this. I could try to look it up for a future video when I do more videos about learning Finnish and resources for that. But yeah, I think definitely there are. You just need to find them. That's the problem. Yevgenia saying that statistics saying that in average until 2015 we will re-qualify about 4 times. That's about our perspective to choose the profession for the rest of our lives. Yeah, that's actually true. And with all the automation and the quick, rapid changes in technologies, it's definitely true that whatever you're going to study today is not going to be enough 5 years from now. But then that means that you need to learn while you're working. All right, a couple of more questions. Next one coming from Arthur. And the question is, Oliver, do you think it is practical to live in any of the 4 regions of Helsinki metropolitan area, Helsinki, Espoo, Vantaa, or Kauniainen, then Uasc offers its apartments in case I'm admitted to study at Aalto University? I'm not sure about the distances, just a curiosity of mine, and I'd like to know your opinion. Sure, really good question, a very relevant question. And there's multiple things that I might want to mention here, but let's first open up Google Maps. So if you look at the Helsinki, the Helsinki metropolitan area. So the Helsinki metropolitan area, the border basically goes somewhere around here. So around here, like this. So we have Espoo, we have Helsinki, then we have Vantaa, and then we have Kauniainen, which is Kauniainen. Here, it's a small district here in the middle of Espoo, basically. It's like the Vatican, it's inside another district. So even though these distances might look pretty big on the map, these are actually very small. So for example, if you think about, this is the absolute this is downtown Helsinki, for example. From here to here is the Otaniemi campus with the stars. this is through the main road. This is, I think, like 7 or 8 kilometers, so it's not that far. That's only 4 metro stops away. So from here to here, it takes 20 minutes with public transportation. It's really nice. If you live in Espoo, you can use a bus or a metro, depending on whether or not you live next to the metro line. And in Vantaa, the same thing. It takes a bit longer from Vantaa. So if you get admitted to study at Aalto, every single district or area in the Helsinki metropolitan area is fine. Some are a bit further away, takes a bit longer. Some are closer. But the thing here is that is really important to remember is that when you apply for a student apartment, regardless of whether it's from Uasc or the Aalto University Student Union or Helsinki University Student Union or any else like providers in Oulu or Vaasa or wherever, what you really need to remember is that the more you start restricting the options, for example, based on the location, the smaller your chances are to get an apartment. So, for example, again, if we go with a practical example here, excuse me. If we look at the HOAS, so the Foundation for Student Housing in the Helsinki region, which is the biggest student apartment provider in the Helsinki region with almost 10,000 apartments. When you apply through them, if you actually apply, or I'm sorry, when you apply, you can, excuse me, where is it? Here. So you can basically start, for example, narrowing down the different apartment types, and then you can narrow down the rent. But for example, here, and then you can, for example, narrow down by I have a child, I have a pet, because not all apartments are suitable for pets. But for example, then here, yeah, they're actually saying your chances of getting an apartment are the better the more location you put in your application. So, why is this locked? All right, let's actually fill this up really quickly. April, there you go. Okay, so if you start restricting this with different areas, let's say Espoo, the center of Espoo, Itäkeskus, which is a district here, Kalasatama, which has really nice new apartments. Jätkäsaari has really nice new apartments. They're really, really lovely, just being finished, but they're really expensive as well. This is going to restrict your opportunity to get an apartment quite a bit, especially since these districts here, the apartments in these places are very highly sought after because they are brand new, meaning that if you apply to only these, it is very likely that you will not be offered an apartment at all because of the queuing system that they have, the different providers have. So keeping in mind, the more you restrict, the less likely it is that you're actually offered an apartment. So what I would do, and what I did personally when I applied to for student apartments originally 8 years ago, is that I basically had all the options open. I didn't restrict it at all because I knew that I didn't want to restrict my chances on getting an apartment. Excuse me. All right. The next question comes from Swapnil from India, and who has not yet decided whether or not he wants to study in Finland, but he's interested in a PhD or a master's at the Tampere University, University of Eastern Finland, or Åbo Academy, and he is interested in law, specialization in regulation and policy making. Cool. The question is, what is the scenario of part-time jobs in COVID era? I've come to know from students currently studying in Finland that part-time jobs have become difficult to get. Also, is it possible to secure a part-time job before landing in Finland and starting your studies? Great questions. Let's take this piece by piece. Let's start from the beginning because that's the simpler one. Is it possible to secure a part-time job before landing in Finland and starting your studies? Technically, yes. Oops, sorry. Just a moment. All right, my apologies. The battery ran out. Let's take that again. So is it possible to secure a part-time job before landing in Finland and starting your studies? Technically, yes. Practically, no. Because no company is going to recruit you or hire you before you come to Finland unless you are specifically coming to work to Finland. So if you are a student and you're applying for work, no one is going to hire you. That's just the reality of the situation. Unless you're like the best in class in Harvard or something. You have to be very exceptional for this to happen. Then the second one is, what is the scenario in terms of part-time jobs in the COVID era? It's difficult. Depends on your field and depends on what kind of jobs you're looking for. So for example, if you already have a bachelor's in law or a bachelor's degree in general, it's easier than if you come to Finland with just a high school education. However, and especially if you like think about jobs that are like part-time jobs in the service sector, like restaurants, grocery stores, clothing stores, any of these kind of traditional part-time jobs that students do, they are very difficult to get at the moment. And this is not only just for international students, but it's also for the Finnish nationals as well, simply because of the situation. However, if you are looking for part-time jobs in your field, the Finnish economy has bounced back pretty much almost fully. The only thing is that the restaurant field and tourism is doing really badly currently, as it is, of course, everywhere else. But for example, if you want to get a part-time job in law, I don't think that it's more difficult to get a part-time job right now than normally. Simply getting a part-time job in your field, especially in an early stage of your studies, is always difficult. I got my first part-time job that I did during my studies after my third year, so after my bachelor's, and I already have had quite a lot of work experience because I had been working for example, during the summer, and I had done an internship and so on. So it's not an easy situation currently, but I don't think it's, in terms of like specialized jobs, it's not that bad compared to like these more traditional part-time jobs. Again, impossible to say, depends on the field, the jobs that you're looking for, and your ability to actually look for jobs. Jobs are there, you just need to know where to look for them. The next question comes from Topoyo. Awesome to have you here on the stream as well. I did not notice you in the chat. Anyways, the question is, number one, what did I miss? Quite a lot. There's already been quite a lot of discussion about different topics. So again, I would recommend that you, after the stream ends, I would recommend that you go back and just watch from the start all the way to the point where we are currently. So different questions about different things. Second question, I'm waiting for my TOEFL and IELTS results. Yes, I took both. Good. All right. Which will be out around the 25th of December. Awesome. Do you think it will be beneficial to fill the application now and mail all required attachments then after the proficiency results are out, so that I can get them mailed too? I don't want to send stuff late so that they end up getting on the university after the deadline. That's a good question. I don't want to give direct instructions here because it depends on you and the different documents that you need to send. But if there are any things that you need to send via mail and the deadlines are really quick, coming up really quickly after December, then probably yes. However, if the deadline, for example, for the proficiency tests results and other things that you need to mail in are in February, March, then probably you don't have to hurry with them. The only thing that I would keep in mind is that you simply need to keep a very good list of all the things that you need to do. Make like a checklist or a to-do list of things you need to do and in which deadline within which deadlines. So the only thing is that if you do the application now and then you start sending in the different attachments via mail and you submit some attachments to the digital application later, The only thing that I think is that you might get a bit confused on what you have already done, and it might make it a bit easier for you to forget something. That's the only concern that I would have. So just make sure that you have a very good checklist of all the things that you have already done and the things that you need to do, and then you should be fine. There's nothing stopping you from sending them separately. So as long as everything comes to the admission offices on time. Again, depends on you, but this is what I think. The third question, on the referees, do the professor have still on the reference letter of recommendation? Does the professor have to still be lecturing at the university? I'm asking because my my referee, so the person recommending you, left the university a year ago, but she taught and mentored me through my second and third and fourth year at university. Really good question. Please take this with a grain of salt, and please don't blame me if this screws up everything. This is not official instructions because, again, I don't have any personal experience in this area. But what I would do, what is my gut feeling, is that there's no way that it can matter that the professor has already left the university, because who else could you get a recommendation letter from if she basically taught you and mentored you through your studies? Unless you're able to get a letter of recommendation from someone else, then you really don't have an option, right? So I don't think, as long as she has been in the academics as a professor, then it should probably not matter. But again, I'm not 100% sure. What you could do is you could always send the University of Helsinki and Turku, their admission offices, an email about this. Just tell them that I'm a bit worried that the professor who would refer me has already left the academics, but could I still get a letter of recommendation from her? Is it okay? Just keep it simple and ask this, and hopefully they would give you some kind of an idea of it. My gut feeling is that it doesn't matter, but this is not coming from Aalto University, or University of Helsinki, so it's not official. The next question comes from Vikas Kushwaha from India, who is applying to study in the next application period to the Lappeenranta University. Lappeenranta University, specifically computer sciences. And the question is, if I get a job in regular sales or related to it after my master's from Finland, will my post-study work permit be an issue? So basically, is the question like, if you get a job that is not related to your field? I don't think that's going to be an issue. You would need to ask the immigration service about this. But I haven't seen... If you, for example, look at if you go to the immigration service website, and you look at the extended permit to look for a job or for work, this doesn't say anything about the type of work. This doesn't mention anything about the type of work that you would need to apply for. So I would say no. At least how I interpret this is that you can still apply for the residence permit to look for work or residence permit to work if you don't have a job. If you have a job that is not strictly about your field. I don't see any reason. But again, since you're going to study computer sciences, I don't think that's going to be a problem. You're definitely going to be able to find a job in computer sciences. Disclaimer, as long as you know what you're doing. Again, if you have a degree, it will not help you if you don't know what you're doing. The next question comes from Juan from Mexico. And again, Juan is applying for the University of Oulu to study computer sciences and engineering. And the question is, in this application period, January 2021, the priority order of the programs in the joint application is required. Is it required? or do I get to choose among programs I qualify to? Again, let me just check. Together with you guys. So again, go to studyinfo.fi. Shut up. Go to higher education, how to apply for bachelor's and master's, and then here's the joint application and separate application links. Read more about joint application. And in the spring, joint application for study programs, you do not have to place the study programs in order of preference. And you can be offered several study places. So basically meaning that if you are admitted to study in multiple places, then you have to choose one of them. But you do not have to put them in the order of preference. However, what I would recommend you to check out is that specifically since you are applying for a specifically because you are applying for a master's program. No, yes, no. Actually, never mind. Remember that most of the master's programs are applied to during December, and then bachelor's programs are applied to in January. So just make sure to remember that. Excuse me. The next question comes from Aliza. Aliza from Russia. And Aliza is applying to study in the next application period. And the question is, if the university will... if the universities decide to make one or several semesters remotely, will I be able to get a permit to live in Finland? Yes. So the fact on whether or not the university semesters are done remotely or not should not impact your residence permit application for studies. You can, yeah, that's basically it. For example, this spring when the applications happened during the COVID first wave of COVID, the university guidelines were basically that they would prefer you to come to Finland, but if you want to do a semester online, then you can do that as well. So no, it should not negatively impact your residence permit request application anyway. On the other hand, will I be required to do it and move to Finland? No, you will not necessarily be required to apply for a residence permit to Finland. Depends on the university and depends on the situation. So do take into account that if you apply now or in January, you will be applying for the autumn intake, meaning that you would start your studies in either late August or early September. And most of, depending on how quickly the vaccinations happen, it might be that the situation has changed completely, either to worse or better by the time next year that you need to be here. So I would keep an eye out on the university websites. Make sure to subscribe to their newsletters. And if you are admitted to study there, they will automatically start sending you updates about the COVID situation and specifically about the whether or not you need to actually come here physically to study for that semester. So don't worry about it. The university will let you know. Yeah. Yevgeny asking a really good question. If I have a job in Finland, am I allowed to come despite the corona restrictions? Depends on the country. So some countries that have very high corona numbers, there are still some restrictions that you cannot come into Finland at all. But for example, I don't think that Lithuania is one of those places. So if you get a job here, you should be able to come here. Again, don't take this word from me, especially if you're watching this from replay, because the situation changes every single week. But what you need to do is you need to check the website of the Finnish Institute of Health and Welfare. So that is going to be thl.fi, thl.fi, and then choose English. And from here, you can actually see the instructions and the restrictions, travel restrictions for COVID, as they are updated on a day-to-day and weekly basis. So if you come from a country where you cannot come to Finland at all, then you cannot come here. There are some countries from where when you come here, then you need to have a quarantine period, and then there's some countries from where you can come to Finland with a voluntary quarantine, and then there are some countries from where you can come to Finland without any kind of quarantine. So depends on the country and the situation. The next one comes from John from Spain. And John is applying in the next application period to study in the University of Turku, and specifically computer engineering, interested in cybersecurity. Awesome. That's really cool. Question is, hi. Hello. It is said that in some Northern European countries, the government helps economically, or the students economically. Is this the case in Finland too? Thanks. Yes, this is true, but this mostly applies. Yes, that is true, but it basically only applies to Finnish nationals. So Finnish students are able to get a government grant to help them financially to study their degree, and we also have a specific government guaranteed student loan, which most people take. And unfortunately, those are only for Finnish nationals. There are some very specific exceptions to this rule, but they don't apply to 99.9% of people who are not Finnish nationals. So a good question, but unfortunately, that is not. The answer is no to the majority of people. For example, since you come from Spain, the good thing is that you don't have to pay tuition because you're a national of a European Union state. However, you still have to cover your own living costs in Finland. You're welcome, guys. Actually, funny enough, we are 1 like away from 55 likes. It would be awesome to get to 55, and if we're able to reach 60, that would be awesome. While we are trying to collect a couple of more likes, and I would just once again like to mention that if you want to directly support what I'm doing here on the channel, I would really appreciate if you guys considered join as a channel member. Basically what that means is that under the video or here on the channel page, you can see this join button. If you click it, you can actually see 4 different channel member levels that I have, and each of the channel members has basically a monthly subscription, and each of them has a set of different perks. For example, if you are a grad student level member, you will get access to perks from the other levels. So, for example, you get access to members-only live streams, you get access to early access to the videos, you get access to behind-the-scenes videos, and you get access to an exclusive Discord channel where I only allow grad student members. And there I have more personal dialogue, and especially considering that the Discord server is currently growing quickly, it becomes quite difficult for me to answer everyone really quickly, and I will always put the members only channel on a priority list. So if you if you want to support the channel and what I do here directly, I would really appreciate it. It would mean the world to me if you considered actually joining as a channel member. However, we are currently out of questions at this point. Darn, Aaron, welcome to the stream. I'm actually just about to end the stream. We're actually out of questions, and we've been going with the stream for over 3 hours, and I thought that this would be a good point to stop because I still have to go home and start keep working on my master's thesis. I'm trying to get my thesis done as quickly as possible so that I can graduate, and I really need to start putting hours into that. Anyways, guys, as always, thank you so much for joining, and one more thing to mention that, of course, as before, the stream is partly sponsored by Arni, and if you still don't know, Arni is the Finnish company designing and manufacturing these beautiful wooden watches. For example, the one that I'm wearing in my wrist during all the streams is the Arni XO Elm watch. And the guys at the Arni, they design and manufacture both the wooden watches. They also do some accessories like leather wallets as well as wooden sunglasses. And I actually know the guys from Arni, the guys at Arni from school, and I really like what they're doing. And if you want to support the channel and get yourself a awesome piece of Finnish nature made out of Finnish wood, there is actually a link to the Arni website as well as a discount code for 10% off. And you will get a discount. I will get a small cut out of the purchase price, and everyone will be extremely happy. Anyways, thanks so much, guys, for joining us live here. I hope that you're getting some value. As always, if you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel for more awesome live streams as well as other content. Make sure to hit the the like button, as well as turn on all notifications so that you get notified when I actually have future videos online. But I will end this here. Thanks for joining us. I will see